a suit is an unsettling image.
Yes, that is true. Ron is different in this one.
They're all a little different.
Oh, sure. I love Donna's hair.
Donna's hair was
She's got such, like, a pixie that's, like, poofy. Like a poofy pixie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hilarious.
I don't know what... Yeah, like, just compared to, like, because Retta's hair is always, like, straight.
Yeah.
And, like,
and very, way more... She looks more like housewife here.
Yeah.
And less, like,
her
posh.
sassy self.
Yes. She's so sassy posh. And then over here, she's, like, little housewife. And it's like, you are not little housewife.
You are not Donna Meagle. You are not
Where is my Donna?
Not my hashtag.
Where is my Donna?
Not my Donna.
Like they say Southern or something.
Where is Pawnee?
Well, it's not
Indiana.
real, so it's nowhere. And it's like, okay, jackass.
Supposed to be.
Supposed to be.
According to Google's AI overview, it is in the south central part of the state, 90 miles from Indianapolis. Pawnee was based on Muncie, and the map of Pawnee is actually a map of Muncie that's been flipped upside down.
That's funny.
So there you go. Jerry always likes to go on vacation in Muncie.
That's right.
I watched it on the DVD player. But I did look and see if Peacock had, like with The Office, they have those extended superfan cuts, because The Office had so many deleted scenes because of so much improvisation.
Right.
They didn't have that with Parks and Rec, at least not with these first episodes.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know if it'll end up having them with some of the other seasons, but it didn't have
Maybe when their
one.
pacing gets better.
Did you notice that too?
It's a little slower.
That the episode is slow?
It's a little slower and quiet, but I still like it, and I feel like it works for what it is, in my opinion.
It's more of the Office tone with the pace and the sound.
Yeah, a little bit.
I thought
it was fine, but I don't want to compare it to the rest, so...
If you watch modern Simpsons episodes, I always say it is unsettling because it's quiet. And Simpsons episodes in the past didn't always have a score with it, but the pace and the score that was associated with it almost made it feel like there always was.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you watch it, there's less of it. Modern day Looney Tunes is the same way, where they don't have a orchestral track behind it the whole time, and it just doesn't sound right. But Parks and Rec didn't have a score behind it in the last several seasons. But I noticed that too, where I was like, why is it quieter?
It just feels...
It's strangely quieter.
I think it's because they add background noise.
You know what, though? And this is with hindsight, and I'm going to say this a couple of times probably during the show here. People say that this season isn't good, and this season is like the bad one or whatever, and they're not they have to find their way. But in hindsight, if you take it all as a whole, it's like the city is growing.
Yes, it's growing
or like
with them.
Or it's growing it's becoming more dynamic.
Yes.
So it starts off quiet and slow paced, and as the show progresses,
so does the city.
Yeah, it actually works itself out that way.
That's interesting.
About that.
That's a take right there.
Write your papers, folks. Write your fucking PhD papers on that. I am Kevin.
I'm Rachel.
And this is Shelf Life, a podcast brought to you by a brother and sister team going through all things pop culture, one at a time, to determine whether or not the subject at hand belongs on your shelf. Of course, what is that guy's name that Dan Castellaneta plays in the future? He's like the NPR guy. You know what I was doing. It's like a pretentious name because he's like the NPR guy.
I don't remember. I'm looking. Hold on.
This is Thoughts for Your Thoughts. Isn't that the name of his show?
Yeah, it's a radio show, isn't it?
Because she goes on it a couple of times. Is that right? Yep.
I got it.
Dairy Merbles.
That's a name.
Dairy Merbles. Hello, I'm Dairy Merbles. We're not Dairy Merbles here, but we are, in fact, a podcast where a brother and sister team are going through all things pop culture one at a time to determine whether or not the subject at hand belongs on your shelf, be that physical or digital, in all sorts of genres, and we go through those things in a very deliberate pace when it comes to all of these subjects. Although, Rachel, I was thinking about this when I was going through this subject, and I was thinking we might have to consider making a semi-announcement when it comes to TV shows.
Ooh.
In that...
New announcement.
In that...
I don't know.
we won't So, I mean, hear me out on this. Hear me out.
It's not
In
going to be
that
everything.
We won't, huh?
Go on.
In that we won't walk through every episode of all these TV shows because there's just too much. And if we want to actually, accomplish some stuff, we might have to Shelf Life selects it, sort of. So here's my point. Here's my thought.
We're changing things, folks. This is what happens. And in volume 5, we change it up.
Hang on.
Big things.
This is all I'm thinking.
That's
this
fine.
is all I'm thinking.
It's fine.
If you and I, because no matter what, we're going to have to watch the episode still of whatever subject it is. But if you and I are like, yeah, there isn't much to walk through here, there isn't much commentary to discuss, there isn't much to discuss, here's the highlights that I want to do based on the notes that I took, we do that, give our little spiel, and we move on to the next episode. So it's not that we aren't going to cover it, it's more that we're going to be like, there's not a lot to say. I don't think we have to do that with the Volume 5 subjects, since we're recording them, but I'm thinking maybe going forward, if you and I both agree that there isn't a lot to discuss, that this episode is middling, we're going to be like, turn the keys, we're discussing our opinions on it, and we're moving on to the next episode. Because we still have to watch it.
Potentially.
We still have to watch it
I'm kind
in order
of,
to find that out.
I'm thinking, yeah, I guess it's if there's like a lot to discuss, or if there's a big opinion where it's like, I really don't want to walk through this.
Yeah, because it's just a waste of time or whatever.
Yeah, it's like...
But I don't want to say it's because an episode isn't bad. Like, I feel like we have to cover the worst ones.
Oh, sure.
Because of the fact that they are the worst, and if they make us feel an emotion, then you have to cover it.
I suppose.
But if it's so bland...
It's just bland.
That it doesn't matter. It's like...
So where do the bland ones go? They're not on the shelf. They're not even in a box.
No, they're not. They're not on the shelf. They're not anything. They're not on the shelf.
They're not anything.
At all.
Well, it's just sad for them.
They're there. Yeah.
They go poof.
I don't know if we will stumble across any of those going forward, but I'm just saying, like, should we consider that so that we're able to accelerate how many things we can get through?
I suppose we could. I suppose we could. I could think about it. It hasn't happened. We don't know if it's going to happen, but if it does happen,
right,
we'll let you know.
That's right. We will let listeners, don't worry, we will let you know. So the reason I'm saying that, Rachel, what is the subject that we are considering for the shelf today?
We are covering the first 3 episodes of Parks and Recreation.
That's right. We are going to Pawnee, Indiana, home of Little Sebastian, but I don't know what else. Home of the Wama.
I was going to say home of Little Sebastian, too. I couldn't remember what, like, the team or anything would be called.
I can't remember the team. I can only remember.
The Pawnee Porpoises is the swim team. There's the Pawnee Central Drunken Savages, but I think they changed that one. I just like Little Sebastian just being the mascot.
Yeah, so let's just go with the home of Little Sebastian.
That's my favorite.
And others. This is Parks and Recreation. It is the first season. So the reason I'm saying that is because how many TV shows have we done now, Rachel? Like, first seasons. We've done The Simpsons. Seinfeld.
Office.
Doctor
Who.
Turtles. Doctor Who.
Twilight Zone.
So this is Twilight Zone, sort of, but we haven't finished the first season, and we won't for a while. But five with some Twilight Zones. This is the 5th TV show, and we're going to do more.
Oh yeah, I guess it is the 5th.
So we're going to do more of them, of course. But when we're thinking about that, we're like, okay, we're starting all of these first seasons, and I'm going, when are we going to get to the second season of The Simpsons or Seinfeld or any of these? And it's like the more we take on in the TV land, the harder it's going to be.
Sure, so that makes sense.
When do we have to clip some of these?
Well, I guess if we do at least the first season, right? You do the first season, I guess, would make sense, unless there's something happening there. But yeah, that's the foundation. And then when you move on, you're like, okay, hold on, because there's a lot. And there's a lot that I want to talk about, and there's a lot that we got to go over.
I got a lot of things to say to you people.
So I guess that could be a thought, or if there also are issues with like that first season, then maybe we can just be like, okay, here's what happened, moving on, and then hopefully we can just like
first season. Some people think that this first season is a skipper. They don't think that this first season has shelf life.
You skip the entire season.
I've heard...
Interesting.
I've seen people say online you can skip the first season when it comes to Parks and Rec, which is interesting.
I could say you could skip every other season in The Office except for the first couple seasons and be done.
We have looked at these first... That's Rachel's hot take. So
I'm just saying, if they want to say that, then I would say that one too. Like, just stop after this season. With many things.
You think it's the first season, Rachel, but it's like season 5 when they get married. So it's actually quite a ways into the...
I didn't say the first season. I said after
the first couple.
Well, because I'm pretty sure after they get together, I got bored with the show.
Yeah.
I don't care about them getting married. There were probably a few episodes in between. That's The Office. This is not The Office. This is Parks and Recreation.
Which
we're in the government. We're not privatized.
That's my hot take. Parks and Recreation is better than The Office.
Oh, no, I agree.
Head to tail, top to bottom, Parks and Recreation is a better show.
Yes, agreed.
That's my hot take.
It's a hot take for a lot of people, but not for me. Just makes sense.
But this particular season, people think...
Oh, yeah, it's like,
as we mentioned in the opener, it's too slow, it's too quiet, it's too cynical. Leslie is just a female Michael Scott. All of these criticisms are laid bare on this one. If we were to skip anything, people would say skip this. We're not going to skip this because, like you're saying, it's the foundation. Well, but like I said, we're going to have to watch them anyway to determine whether or not we want to skip the walkthrough. So for most of them, we are still going to do the walkthrough. It would just be, okay, there's not that much to talk about here. XYZ happens. This is a couple of good spots.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This is what they're trying to do. You know, like,
we're not going to completely go, well, we're not covering this, but we're going to at least have our 2 cents.
Anyway. That was a lot to take in.
That was a lot to say.
We jumped back and forth between some shelf life administrative work and the introduction of, yes, Parks and Recreation, which I just said it. I think that this is one of the most undersung shows in television history, as far as a comedy and as far as having some world building. It's not on there with The Simpsons and Springfield, but it is definitely trying to build a world very similar to The Simpsons, Springfield. Rachel, what is your history with Parks and Recreation? What do you recall about the show? Do you have any, like, feelings going into the show as we just start to talk about it?
I don't, like, recall watching it, like, for the first time ever, like, and seeing the first season. I don't, like, recall that. I don't know why. Obviously, for me, we were talking about this, and I do have, like, the higher feelings of that this is a very, good show. That's what I'm coming in with. So I'm already feeling that for the show. And I've seen it multiple times, or at least I've seen a lot of different episodes multiple times, especially when it's just kind of like on TV. You turn it on, it's in the background. I don't know if I have a lot to say for my background on it, except for that, like, I remember watching it together. This was one of those, like, oh, it's lunchtime, let's watch a Parks and Rec.
When would we have done
I don't know.
That,
that's why I'm confused. Like, that's what I remember. But I remember us doing that before.
Because the first season
so when
started
the hell did
in
I watch
2009, and I would have started working a couple years after that. So unless it was, like, the summer between when I graduated from school and started working full-time, I don't know when that would have been. I can recall watching
was it like a TV
live.
Was it like a dinner time type thing? I don't know. I don't remember watching it. I honestly don't.
Did it come on at 7 or 7:30? There was a block there where, for a few years, where this was on and Community was on and The Office was on. And Community would come on at 7. Office would come on at 8, and Parks and Rec, I think, was on right after that or right before it. I don't remember. That was a whole block where I would watch this show, but I don't remember watching season 1 either. I remember catching up to it more in, like, season 2 probably, but I don't remember if we ever.
I don't remember watching it for the first time at all.
Like, yeah, like, I do not remember watching it the first time, but at some point we did start watching it. I think it was more that we would watch it together live. Maybe. Like, I could remember watching it, like, as it happened, but not until, like, the second or third season.
No, I remember watching it live. Absolutely.
And watching it.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe that's what it is. Like, I remember watching it together. Or at least some of it.
It would come on, like, Thursday Night Football would come on, and, like, you could watch it right before the game would start, or, like, as the game was playing, like, one or the other. Like, I can remember vaguely those things with it. Yeah, I mean, for me now, it was, like, I did like it when it was on. I always did have an affection for it. Now it's on in syndication. Actually, at the time of this recording, it's on in syndication, usually in the morning on the weekends. So if you ever wake up on the weekend and you don't have the Saturday morning Shelf Life cartoon to watch, Parks and Rec is usually on in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I think it's also on in the afternoon on some channels too. But like for me, I always can find it on cable in the morning. So now it is just a question of, can we say whether or not these things actually have shelf life? Is there nostalgia there for us, etc.? So we talked about the fact that this was Office-like. And Rachel, do you know why it is so much, or at least it feels like The Office?
Well, because
this first season feels more like The Office than the other seasons.
Sure. The way it's shot, it's very documentary. It's very, they talk to us through like a camera and everything too.
And I think I've mentioned this in other podcasts, and probably The Office one. This season in particular does feel mockumentary style. But I have always headcanoned it for like the whole of Parks and Rec that it isn't really a mockumentary. It's letting that we, the viewer, are the chorus, the Greek chorus, and all of these standalone confessionals are really soliloquies where they're talking to us, the listener or the viewer, but it's not really a mockumentary.
Right.
Because it gets so far past the mockumentary style where they still do the monologues, they still do some of that, but it never takes on the life that it does in The Office where it feels
where it's
a lot
actually
like a documentary.
Mockumentary where there's somebody actually behind a camera. There's actually somebody like producing it. There isn't. Yeah.
Right, especially the last episode completely takes it, of the entire series, completely takes it out of that realm. You would never ever say that is a mockumentary, like it's a mockumentary. So for me, I always think of this as the documentary style of it is just because you like as the viewer are yes, and the confessionals are just soliloquies from the characters.
Right.
Which I always like more because as much as I enjoyed The Office for its mockumentary style, I don't like it in everything. I don't even like it in Modern Family. Like, I know that, like, it works in Modern Family too, but after a while it's like, why the hell? It feels like Modern Family and Parks and Rec should be the same way, right?
Well,
where it's,
Modern Family has...
These are soliloquies.
Modern Family kind of feels like part documentary, part... What are those called?
Sitcom, stage play...
Documentary, part sitcom, part reality show.
Compared
to these. That's more of a reality show versus these, which have like that mockumentary, documentary type of feeling, to me.
I mean, that's interesting. I'm sure we'll do.
And they have like their confessionals where they get to sit and talk to the camera.
Yeah, okay.
That's what it feels like.
That does feel more like they're talking to a camera versus... I feel like
talking
Parks
to the
and Rec
audience
is always talking to us. It's talking to us. Yeah. Interesting take on that. But yes, this feels more like The Office in season 1. And now I'll go back to you, Rachel, and because I stopped you from answering the question of, do you know why it feels like that? Do you know why they went with a mockumentary style to start with?
I don't know why they went with that.
So I will tell you.
Okay.
That's all I was looking for. In the mid-aughts, The Office is on fire. It's becoming a very, very popular show. And NBC says that they want to do a spin-off. So they go to Greg Daniels, who helped develop The Office, made The Office for the U.S., and they say, we'll give you whatever you want. We want you to do another Office show, a spin-off of The Office. And he goes to Michael Schur, who's another guy that helped make The Office, which we talked about on our Office episode. See the back catalog, folks. Volume 2 for The Office, I think. Volume 2 for The Office season 1. We don't know when the next Office season will be in, but at the very least, Office is in Volume 2.
Yes.
They don't know what they're going to do, but they know that they have like carte blanche to do whatever they want in order to make this show. So they decide to go, and they're going to do another Office type show, meaning that it's going to be like a mockumentary, but they don't know exactly what they want it to be. So at first they were like, okay, nothing fits here. We can't come up with anything that would like be connected to The Office, like with the characters or with the city of Scranton or Dunder Mifflin or something like that. They couldn't come up with anything that like fit. So then they decided maybe we should do something with the public sector, because we had done something with the private sector with The Office. Let's do something with the public sector, meaning with the government.
Oh, that's what
so
I was
what do you
saying.
want to do? Do you want to? Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what she said. So then they decided to figure out, okay, what are we going to have it portrayed under? And they were able to get Amy Poehler. Mm-hmm. And once they got Amy Poehler, they were able to come up with the idea for Leslie Knope as this eternal optimistic, almost clueless, naive government worker who truly believes in her job, and they wanted it to revolve around that kind of thing. A bureaucrat in a small town,
right,
with a bunch of red tape. So now they have the idea of like, okay, this is going to be Parks and Recreation show. This like almost super low stakes, someone with passion about it, but everyone around her is completely passionateless about it, because it's just this little shit stained town and you're in this little, subgroup in the middle of the city or whatever.
Sure, right.
They kept talking about that it was going to be some kind of Office spin-off, though. I watched some videos about the making of Parks and Rec that went along and were talking about how this was always going to be an Office spin-off, that they would call it an Office spin-off, that the first scripts called it an Office spin-off and all of this stuff. Then they found other like conflicting reports that were like, it started that way, but then they were on board with this being about the government and being about people working at the government and stuff like that. They were going to have 13 episodes, but they had to cut it back to 6 because Amy Poehler was pregnant, and they needed to get all of the stuff done in a very short amount of time, so they cut the thing to 6. Okay. So they were like, okay, fine. Because it originally was supposed to debut right after the Super Bowl, but they couldn't do it. They had to like change the schedule.
Okay.
Well, because this is Greg Daniels, this is Michael Schur, this is the guys that brought you The Office. So they're like, this is going to be big. This is going to be huge. We can get you another show here, NBC, right?
Right.
They cast Rashida Jones to play, I almost said to play Karen Filippelli, but to play Ann Perkins, so that was telling you that this is a completely different universe, because now you have Ann Perkins in it.
Exactly.
They wanted to have a character that was going to be part of the government but hated the government, and they were trying to figure out whether or not that was too unrealistic. So they were talking to a bunch of like small towns in California. They would go to like these small city council meetings around California, and they asked, apparently, this is according to them, like doing like a Q&A on Parks and Rec, they asked this lady who was working for one of these governments, like, do you think it would be weird if a libertarian was a director at one of these like city council things? And she said, no, I am libertarian. And
no, I am.
And I guess she said like, yes, I'm aware of the irony or whatever. So that's how they came up with the idea for Ron Swanson, and were able to get Nick Offerman, who clearly embodied the character, understood the character right away, and gave him some life. He was married to, or is still married to, Jennifer Mulaney.
I think so. They have a podcast together and everything.
Oh, do they?
Yes, it's like in bed with them or something.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Megan Mulaney.
Yes. So his wife, Megan Mulaney.
Tammy.
So they knew him from that, who eventually becomes his wife on the show, which is just part of how great all of this is.
Yeah.
The original script portrayed Leslie and then Mark Brandanowitz. They were less likable. They kept upping the likability of a lot of these characters. Apparently there was a lot more Office-like, where it's like all these people suck kind of thing. And The Office even changes that after season 1. I feel like we keep hitting with these comedies. Oh, South Park was the other show. We didn't even mention South Park as the other show. So we have done 6 shows. Right. You're right. All of these comedies that we've hit, the first season is not quite right. And it always takes time for all of these shows to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's interesting
to figure out their characters and figure out like whose Simpsons, personality
Seinfeld,
needs to change and fine-tune it.
They all took time. Even Doctor Who, in my opinion, took at least a half a season to figure out who the fuck these characters are.
Yeah.
It's interesting. in that way. And it almost makes you feel bad for all of these shows that go off the air after like 6 episodes. Because like doing this journey of shelf life through TV land, you're starting to realize that it takes a little while for them to figure this shit out.
Right.
It doesn't come in fully baked.
Sometimes that pilot, well, a lot of the times that pilot even is completely different than the rest of the shows.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes, though, it does happen.
The Boys and Game of Thrones and Stranger Things, I feel like, were pretty fully formed.
A lot of the times when they're established, though, from something else, I feel
they're
like...
established from something else. They have something to piggyback
on.
Yeah.
They already have a character that's actually what it's supposed to be. Right. These are trying to round them out and actually mold them into something.
That's true. I just thought that was very interesting... You know, because you realize it then. So, like, folks at home, I guess what I'm saying is with a lot of these comedies in particular, but just TV shows in general, you almost have to give it time to grow.
Give it time.
There was time now. Other characters come onto the show as well. Allison Jones, who was the casting director as she was for The Office and as she was for a lot of the Judd Apatow stuff in the mid-aughts, was the casting director for this. And she said that she was in a casting room with a girl that made her so uncomfortably feel so awkward that they had to hire her. And that was... Can you guess who that was, Rachel? Yeah. So that was Audrey Plaza. So they purposely tried to find a role for her, so they make her the intern. They needed somebody that was funny, but they wanted him to play the straight man, but be funny and be able to improv.
Right, yep.
Any idea on that one?
Tom.
Yep,
it's gotta be Tom.
That's Tom.
Yeah.
That's Tom.
No, it's Jerry.
So they got Aziz. So they got Aziz
what you just said also works for him.
It also kind of works for Jerry. So they got Aziz Ansari to do that. And then they get Chris Pratt.
Yep.
They were able to find Chris Pratt, who, if you notice in these first episodes, Rachel, it says guest starring.
It's hilarious
Chris
and I love it. Yep.
Because he was not supposed to be on the show for long. He was supposed to be this dick moocher boyfriend of Anne's. Because he's Chris Pratt, he's able to form this character as the season goes on that makes it so they say, we have to find him a role on the show so that he stays on the show. And then Jim O'Hare and Retta coming in as Jerry Gergich and Donna Meagle.
Oh, yes.
Round out the cast. But right now they're not really they're just there. They're
just there. Donna's just in the background.
Yeah. They don't do anything in these first few. They go about filming it. They film it like a mockumentary style. They thought that was a good device for it because it would remind people of The Office, but it would also be a way for people to almost like we're peering into the government kind of thing. So they thought that was a good way to get people to connect to it differently. Leslie, and when I say Leslie, I mean Amy Poehler. And I think I remember seeing this quote from her after the fact, not before the fact, but after the fact. She liked this show, and she takes a lot of creative headway as the series progresses, more so probably in the future seasons. But I remember her stating, and it was probably when the show was wrapping up, that the show was a beacon of hope and optimism, and that's what she wanted it to be.
Okay.
She always wanted the show to be optimistic. That's why the show ends the way it does when we get to the season finale or series finale. It's really one of my favorite series finales ever. Can make you cry watching it.
Oh, it does, yeah.
She was saying that part of the goal here is that watching these people as part of the government, they all come from different backgrounds. They all have different viewpoints. They all have different struggles. But they all work together in an attempt to make the town better. And even in this first season that is full of cynicism and Leslie's like a female Michael Scott or whatever else that people said about it, I feel like you still can see that. These people are still trying to do something.
Yes, they don't just become kind of like annoying, silly things that just are there. To me.
But, yeah. Now, they do some test screenings. They do some focus groups. People say that it is slow, that it's plotting, that it's too much like The Office, that it's a ripoff of The Office, that Leslie is annoying, she's ditzy, she's too much like Michael Scott, etc., etc., etc. So changes are made, but they're still given that extra second season. I was trying to figure out how the hell they were able to get a second season. Because it doesn't sound like they had a particularly... Like, they had mixed reviews in the first season, but I think it had just enough audience debuting, like I said, I think right after The Office that it did, that it was able to kind of stay the course and keep itself on the air. Parks and Rec, and Rachel, you probably don't remember this, because, like, I was, would read reviews or, like, read what people were thinking about the show and stuff. This and Community.
Okay.
And this was a show, along with Community, that people were always terrified it was going to be canceled. I remember this, Community, Chuck. Like, there were always these shows that people were just like, it's going to be canceled. It's definitely going to be canceled.
And you don't want it to be canceled. Like, you're like, no, I don't want this to be canceled. But what if it gets canceled? It's going to get canceled, isn't it?
Yeah, just constantly thinking it was going to be canceled. So Parks and Rec was, like, always on that. And to get 7 seasons out of it.
Right.
And then to get a special during COVID where, like, people needed something. And so, of course, Amy Poehler's like, let's just do a Zoom call with all the Parks and Rec people. And I think that was the first one. And then a bunch of other shows did it. But, like, Parks and Rec was the first, if you remember that, Rachel.
I kind of do, yeah.
But I think part of that, too, was because this show always felt like the underdog. It always felt like the little brother of The Office. It always felt like it was...
in the shadow.
Yeah. It was something that the cool kids knew about. It was the underground version. And that's why I'm sure that has something to do with why I'm like, no. Parks and Rec, or The Office is fine. Parks and Rec is better. Because I'm always I unfortunately am always that guy that's like, no, not WWE AEW. No, not WWE NXT. No, not...
that's because a lot
of
the
time...
It's
not Family Guy, it's American Dad. American Dad's where you want to be.
That super popular thing
it
really
becomes watered down.
Bad because of how popular it is.
Because it goes to the...
Because the execs go, no, we got to do this because this is what people like, so we got to add more of it. Right. And then it's like, hold up a second. That's not what they actually like about it. You're missing the point.
And the lowest common denominator might still like that, like the show, but they don't realize that they've changed what they liked about the show too much or something. One thing that's interesting about Parks and Rec, too, is that these characters in a lot of these shows that we'll watch become more cartoony. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen to these characters, but I feel like they all have an arc. They all grow pretty well over the 7 seasons.
Yeah, they all have like an arc almost too. Yes, they get a lot of character development.
So that was all I really had when it comes to Parks and Recreation. They have their 6 episodes. It debuts, like I said, mixed reviews, things like that. Now is the time for us to really decide what the truth is about Parks and Recreation Season 1. Rachel, is there anything else that you have before we hit the break?
No. We're ready to dive into the government.
So when we come back...
Not the actual government. That would...
yes, folks at home and TSA, if you're listening, Rachel, she meant that metaphorically.
Metaphorically, speaking.
Not TSA, whatever it is. Is it TSA?
Isn't it TSA like something with the
That's
airplanes?
The airport. Folks at home recording.
I mean, I guess you could be listening to it at an airport too. So TSA,
yeah, you could.
Enjoy.
So, yeah, TSA, if you're listening. I don't want to Google
NSA?
It. That's the one, the NSA. That's the one.
There's so many just letters everywhere.
When we come back, after a word from our fake sponsor, we will get into the first episode of Parks and Recreation pilot.
They are the men and women on the front lines for improving their community.
Every month, the Parks Department has a public forum, and they always send me. It's pretty cool, whatever. I don't know. I don't care, but it's an honor.
No one else wants to do it. You go to some sweaty rec center and get yelled at by the public. I hate the public. The public is stupid.
From the people who bring you The Office, Amy Poehler in Parks and Recreation.
Thank you so much for coming. What an amazing turnout.
Thursdays, 8:30, 7:30 Central on NBC.
And we're back with the first episode of Parks and Recreation. Rachel, what is it called?
Pilot.
That's right.
It's just called Pilot. It has nothing to do with planes and actual pilots, but it is the pilot episode.
We've done a few episodes now called
I know, but
Pilot,
it's just called Pilot. Like, you'd think they'd have a name for it.
It should be called Cartman Gets an Anal Probe or something like that. I agree.
I don't think Cartman's the one getting an anal probe in I was going to call it Dunder Mifflin. in Pawnee. I just mixed up 3. God damn it.
We're really talking about TV today. On our
That's
Parks
because of
and Rec
you.
episode.
You're the one who's
Yeah, that is my fault.
overdoing it with all of that. That could have been a whole separate thing.
This is the pilot. It debuted on April 9th, 2009. It was written by Greg Daniels and Michael Schur, and it was directed by Greg Daniels. So Greg Daniels did the pilot for both this and The Office. So the episode begins with a little girl playing in the sand at a park. She is
and then a woman comes
just
up
playing
to her.
with toys, and we meet Leslie Knope, who's in her Hillary Clinton-esque, what is it called? Pantsuit?
Well, it's not a
or something
pantsuit
like that, right?
It's a skirt. It's like a
Is it a
tweed.
skirt?
It's a tweed skirt and jacket.
I thought she was wearing a suit. Okay, all right. So forgive me. It's not the Hillary Clinton-esque. She's got a tweed skirt and a jacket on. She comes up and she wants to do a survey. So she's asking the girl, would you say you are enjoying yourself, having a moderate amount of fun, or no fun? And this little girl just completely ignores her and just keeps playing and pretends like she's not even there. Because there's parents and stuff at the park, but they just let Leslie do this.
Leslie.
Maybe Leslie told them.
I think she's already known.
Yeah, well, she is already known because a boy comes running up and he goes, Ms. Nope, there's a drunk in the slide.
And there is.
So,
there's a drunk in the slide.
Yes, there is a drunk stuck in the slide. So I'm assuming what happened is this gentleman got drunk, stumbled his way to the park in the middle of the night, and then got stuck in the slide.
But he had to climb it, because this is not just like a short slide. This is a tall, swirly slide tube.
Yeah, it's a spiral slide.
That's right.
It's a tube slide. Yeah. Did we ever have one of these slides at one of our parks growing up?
Yes.
We did?
Yeah.
I don't ever remember going down one of these kind of slides. I was probably too chicken shit to
and
do
they would
it.
make the static sound every time you'd go down it. And then if any of the metal screws were in the sun, it would burn. Or you'd get caught on it. My hair would always get caught on everything.
You could never go down one of the open slides. They eventually made them plastic. When you were really little and I was pretty damn little, they were metal.
Yes.
And you could never go down them.
No.
Then they changed it all to plastic, and it was still hotter than dog shit.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so then this was probably a better idea.
Maybe it was more of an open one. Maybe it was more of an open one that spiraled.
That spiraled. Yeah, I don't ever remember one with a top on it.
There were small ones that were like tubes, maybe on the school playground. I think
maybe
they
at
had the
school?
tubes. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe at school. Anyway, we cannot remember because we're old as dirt at this point. So she starts trying to fishing him out with a broom. And as she's doing this, it's overlaid with her. I'm going to call them soliloquies because that's what I like to think of them as.
Fine.
So she does a soliloquy about the importance of government, and that it's not just a boys' club. It's a great time to be a woman in government.
Women are everywhere. It's a great time to be a woman in politics. Hillary Clinton, Sarah Palin, me, Nancy Pelosi. We did it! I like to tell people, get on board and buckle up because my ride's going to be a big one. And if you get motion sickness, put your head between your knees because Leslie Knope's stopping for no one.
It does date it, but I mean, it should be. This is when the
it
time
does date
period.
it, yeah. Well, yeah, that's why I'm okay with a show like this kind of dating it because it makes it of its time,
right?
And it's fine to be something of your time,
right?
Like that.
I agree.
So she finally gets the drunk out after asking him repeatedly and asking him to slide down and do all this stuff, and the guy's like, "Leave me alone" or whatever. She eventually gets him out, and she gets tepid applause from the folks that are at the park.
I think it's just the children.
Yeah, it really is just the kids
just
giving
the
her
children
tepid
that are
applause.
just like, "Oh yay, we can use the slide again."
Yes. It is similar to Michael Scott in the way that she thinks that she's doing the Lord's work. The problem is
she's doing the government work. She's not doing the Lord's work. She is doing the important government work.
But the little shit like this is stuff that we don't always think about, where it's like, if somebody weren't doing that, you'd complain about it.
Yes.
So you kind of need someone to do that and enjoy it.
Those little details. All the little details.
And that's why having her be female Michael Scott doesn't really make sense or work, because Michael Scott is a paper salesman.
Yes.
And he's a middle manager.
Right.
And he doesn't really do anything of value. So it doesn't work for me, that comparison. And that's why I think that she changes and evolves over time, for sure. The opening credits begins. It's a nice little ditty. I thought that this really does fit the tone. It feels like an optimistic,
you can sing it,
lighthearted music that kind of gives you the idea of what you're about to get into with like this kind of... And it breaks down all the players that we talked about as well. There's a meeting when we come back in the Parks and Rec office, and Ron has a suit on, which I said is very unsettling, very strange to see Ron Swanson wearing a full suit.
This is before he goes, you know what? No, I'm not doing this anymore. I refuse.
That's right. Yeah. Which, yeah, you could make it part of his character growth where it's like he plays nice and wears the suit, and eventually he's like, I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah.
I will no longer wear the suit.
Yes. They do more, I thought, of a documentary style in this season. You can see more camera shifting, and they acknowledge that there's a camera there. Yeah.
Right.
More so than they do in future seasons where, like I said, it might as well be you. It's not really the camera, it's just a one camera, and it's you that they're talking to. Ron says that there is a forum that's going to be held, and someone needs to do the forum, and Leslie is excited to do it, and she raises her hand, and she's ready to go, and she says, does anybody else want to help Leslie? Like, we need a second person. And Jerry and Donna and Tom are all in this meeting with Ron and Leslie, and they do say absolutely nothing.
Yes,
no one wants to volunteer.
Absolutely.
So Tom gets volunteered.
Yep.
Tom, played by Aziz Ansari, who's a more straight man than he usually is, at least in this pilot episode. In fact, he jims the camera. Did you see him jim the camera when he gets volunteered?
He looks straight at it.
Yeah.
Yep. Which happens sometimes, though. There's sometimes where someone like has an epiphany or they think about something. There's that famous one where Andy goes straight to the camera. Like
No, I don't mind it.
I'm just saying. Like
Adam Scott does it a ton in the future seasons. He jims the camera a lot.
He's
when little Jim. Sebastian, he always like does the like with his hand up, he'll always be like, I don't get it,
right?
And jims the camera.
Mm-hmm.
His character makes sense. I don't feel like Tom should jim the camera like that. He can jim the camera in different ways, but not in the way of doing the Jim face. He does a Jim face at the camera. They go to do this forum, and she says that she wants to be the White House. She needs to be like the White House press secretary, is how she compares it. And she goes to open the doors, and they're locked. And I said
but it's not stopping her.
No, she has the enthusiasm right from the beginning. She absolutely has the enthusiasm right from the beginning. It is not fake. Where in The Office, Michael Scott is almost putting on a show for the cameras. You don't feel that with Leslie Knope. I feel like she is legitimately trying.
When she's alone, this is her. When she's with a giant group, this is her. No matter what, this is her.
So they get into the auditorium, and Leslie talks about how this is great, what an amazing turnout, and the camera pans over, and we see maybe a dozen people are in the audience, which is true. If any of you folks at home, if you're from an international spot, if you're from the United States, you definitely know this just from like turn on public access television or go to one
yours.
Of these
city
councils.
Go to your government meetings.
There's nobody shows up to these, and the only people that do show up to these are people that want to bitch about something, like that they're
That's
adamantly
normal.
Against something.
It kind of makes sense, though.
Well,
it's like, nothing's going
because
wrong.
It's hard.
What do I need to talk to my government about?
And the reason that you hire representatives and you vote for representatives and stuff like that is because you have a life. You can't be a part of all of these decisions because it would just take all of your energy. So you have people do it for you. And that's where bureaucracy comes in and all of this kind of thing. And then it gets bogged down and all of that kind of shit. So it definitely is like this all over the place. They turn the lights off on them. So now the auditorium is completely in the dark. And they decide to move the meeting to a classroom instead, and they restart. The citizens are completely stupid and incompetent. They're arguing about Masons, how loud everything is. And she says, yeah, people yell at these things all the time. What she thinks they're doing is really caring. So what they're doing is caring loudly at her.
That's a fair way to look at it.
These people are members of a community that care about where they live. So what I hear when I'm being yelled at is people caring loudly at me.
Because it's them caring
It's her optimistic
about
view.
something. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree.
They're passionate about this.
Right, and
so
she sees their
caring
passion.
loudly.
Right.
Rachel, I went to an HOA meeting once. Okay?
Oh, no.
I went to one. I went to one like right before COVID started. And I thought I should go to these. They're talking about the budget. They're going to talk about like some different important things. And I remember sitting there and and this one guy got up and somebody on the board just goes, "Oh, here we go." And this guy just started complaining about God knows what, about like something with his lights. I can't even remember what it was.
Oh my God.
And that was just a little HOA meeting, like this, little like nothing thing. So I just was like, I bet this is what like every town meeting is like. I mean, you see it on the internet all the time with like these meetings about banning books and horse shit and all this, kind of stuff.
Right.
Where these fights will break out. It's democracy in action.
Really?
Ann Perkins raises her raises her hand.
Right.
She stands up and she says she doesn't care for politics. And they all applaud when she says that, which I thought was a very good joke, because she's just saying she doesn't normally get involved in this kind of thing.
Yes.
But the entire
like, oh yeah, we hate the politicians.
Yeah, we hate politics too, yeah. But she says she wants to talk about the abandoned lot. And it almost killed her boyfriend. So she's talking about how near her house they dug up this area, this like empty plot of land.
Yeah,
they were going to make condos on it.
I was going to say, it kind of looks like they were putting some kind of a foundation into it. It's a hole. It's just like this hole that's shaped that looks like there's going to pour concrete or something.
Yeah, they were going to make a basement, I think is what the city manager says at some point. They went bankrupt because, remember, this came out in 2009. So this would have come out during the Great Recession, right after 2008. So it makes total sense. It actually fits the time period and what was going on pretty well, where it's like all of these housing developments were going up and then they were half done and just left there because all of these things went bankrupt. I kind of remember that. I wonder if, I feel like if you're of a certain age, you remember that, like half done development structures and stuff like that. I feel like they finished them by now because there's like such a housing shortage
at this point. Yeah, if they haven't, wow.
Wow. There might still be some empty lots out there that people can fall into and break both their legs. So she says that's what happened to Andy, her boyfriend. He fell in and broke both his legs, so now she has to take care of him. Tom decides to make a move, and he says, this guy sounds like he didn't have a lot going on for him. You probably have to take care of him. Anne is just looking at him befuddled. So she's the straight man. She's the audience surrogate right from the get. Like, yes, because she's just like, are you hitting on me? And he goes, no, I'm married. I'm just very comfortable around beautiful women like you and all of this stuff.
Exactly.
So we learned that Tom is married. So that's established here.
And he likes to connect with people. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can exchange numbers.
He's a womanizer. He's a bit of a womanizer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and what we end up learning, spoiler alert about, I think, season 2 of this, when we learned that his wife, it was a
green card marriage.
Yeah, it was a green card marriage. Yeah.
She wanted to come here.
That filthy Canadian.
They agreed on it. That's about it.
Yeah. We don't know that yet, but that's why Tom is a little bit... He's a womanizer, but it's
so
because
aloof.
it's...
Yeah. But he also likes to say, like, my wife is so hot and everything, too. So he also uses it for his advantage.
100%. She says that she wants it fixed, and it's government-owned, and you should do something about it. And the crowd applauds, and Leslie, almost like deer in headlights, does not know how to answer without completely committing to something, and that's exactly what she does, because she just goes, I will help you. And she's like, I promise I will get it done. Anne's like, that's a promise. And she says, it's more than a promise.
It's a
picky promise. And she looks very nervous about it.
Well, she looks nervous and she looks scared because, yes, she's like going all in, but she's going all in because everybody's agreeing. Everybody's excited and passionate for what she's saying. And she's like, well, I can't say no to this one. There's nothing I can
That's an interesting way to look
disagree
at
with
it.
On this one. I have to do something for this because everybody's like on board.
That's an interesting way to look at it, Rachel. I did not think about it that way. But yeah, everyone's on board, so she's trying to
keep up with that momentum.
Yes. She's getting sucked into it.
Absolutely.
She says she'll go to the location and fill in the pit.
I'll do something about it.
Really?
Yes, I will help you.
Is that a promise?
It's more than a promise. It's a pinky promise. I pinky promise all of you that I will help. And I will go to that location tomorrow, and we will fill in that pit, and then when that's done, we're going to put a park on the land.
We learned that she's been at the Parks and Rec office for 6 years, and she says that this park could be her Hoover Dam. And behind her, I think she has a picture on her desk, because you see this desk quite a bit. She's got a picture of Larry Bird signed.
Yep.
Indiana Pacers legend. Or not Indiana Pacers. Well, he did coach them, but he was from Indiana. He's Boston Celtics legend.
Sure.
I think Nancy Pelosi is the other picture behind her.
I think it is.
It looks like Nancy Pelosi.
I mean, she's got a lot of women behind her, so I'm trying to figure out.
I think it changes as
it does.
Stuff changes, but in the pilot, I think it is Nancy Pelosi. I liked this little bit where Tom clearly getting bribed with suits on the phone, because he's like, well, actually, I'm only able to take a gift if it's under $25. So
right,
give those things to my wife, however, that I might be able to.
Yeah, so, I can see if they fit her. If they don't fit her, then I guess I could take them.
Yeah, he's pulling in some sort of bribe here, which is, of course, a big government thing. Like, we could do probably a completely separate podcast, Rachel, where we ask people to give us stories about government, like little small town government issues. And,
it would be so interesting.
Discuss them. Because I feel like this kind of shit happens a lot in small towns. Because there's no media or there's no exposure to stop them.
Right. Unless something big happens, in which case now they're going to dig and find all
they'll just get away with stuff a lot longer. He feigns that he's talking to the mayor, is able to kind of pass it off that he was talking to the mayor to Leslie. Mm-hmm. Leslie says that her and Tom work well together, and she thinks that he's from Libya, which was that's a very Michael Scott observation.
It was, yes. She was making an assumption.
Yeah. It cuts to Tom, though, and he goes, I'm from South Carolina. I'm what you might call a redneck, which is also funny. And I think Aziz Ansari is from South Carolina, I think.
He? So is he actually? That's fun. I think
so. She wants to form a subcommittee to get the pit filled in. So she's telling Tom to take these notes, and it tells him that, subcommittees are like the foundation or something that all this stuff is built upon, things like that. And instead of writing down those notes, Tom writes down scribbles because he doesn't really respect her in this first season. And she goes, read that back to me. And Tom reads it back and says, subcommittees are the blood of the... I don't remember what she says, but he says something different.
He says, committees cover our democracy with blood.
That's right, yes. Yes.
And she just goes, sounded better when I said it. It's still good.
Yeah. Which, talk about Michael Scott. I thought that was very Michael Scottish. However, I will make the argument that at this point she's just naive. Because in future seasons, she would have called Tom... that was the way to call Tom out on that. Season 4, Leslie is saying, read that back to me, Tom.
Yeah, and then go on.
And then slapping him for not writing it down, right?
She's kind of getting stepped on in this first season. Because she's just letting people pleaser, very just naive, everything.
Yes. As people
she
said
continues
in the
to be a people
groups.
pleaser, but
But as people said in the focus groups, ditzy, I think, is how they described her.
Ditzy, yeah. But so is Michael Scott. So if you don't call Michael Scott ditzy,
he is. She wants to get Mark Brandanowitz to help. Mark Brandanowitz is the city planner, played by Paul Schneider.
He's eating a bagel, or whatever he's eating.
I think he's eating a sandwich, but I like to think he's eating a bagel sandwich just because.
He's eating a bagel.
He's eating a bagel or a sandwich, or who gives a shit.
Yeah.
And she says that in government, you got to give them the business. And she's trying to, like, act kind of tough, like she knows, like, all the wheelings and dealings that need to go on in government. Mm-hmm. But I think what you're supposed to be ascertaining from all of this is that Leslie, while well-meaning, does not understand how the government works quite yet. She is naive to the process and naive to how tough it is for any of this stuff to work. And that's kind of where Mark comes in, because Mark is more a seasoned vet at this, even though she's been there for 6 years. So what the hell has she been doing?
Yeah, it's
for that
weird.
Long? She makes the pitch to Mark, and he says the hoops you'd have to jump through, it just isn't likely. But is it possible? No, it's not possible. She'd probably give up on that one.
Well, when I think about the logistics, the various hoops that you're gonna have to jump through, I would say, is it likely? No, it's not likely, you know. But, is it possible? No, it's not possible. I would give up on that one.
What? Why?
He gives a bunch of reasons for why it wouldn't happen, and she says she could do it if she gets some help. So she asks him for a favor for old time's sake. And we get a soliloquy from Leslie saying that it's complicated because she's got a thing for him. Mm-hmm. And eventually says that they did it once. And it cuts back to Mark.
I was going to say, is this the part where it cuts back to him and goes, we didn't sleep together? And then he thinks about it and he goes, oh, wait. Yeah.
He's like, wait. Yeah. Yeah, we did. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that inference, too, because Mark is a womanizer.
Yes.
Or at least gets around quite a bit.
He gets around. That's for sure.
And that's almost kind of your hint that he gets around quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Because it's like, oh, I couldn't even remember a notch on my belt type of thing.
And then, Rachel, we meet the next major character.
We'll go to Ann Perkins' house.
Yes. Would you like to describe Ann Perkins' boyfriend, a.k.a. Andy Dwyer?
A filthy slob of a man.
He's a man-child.
He is a giant man-child. Yes. This is when Chris Pratt had like dad bod, but like dirty.
Yes, he's chubby.
Yeah, but like stinky dad bod. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he does look like he kind of smells. You're right.
Yeah, because I think he forgets to shower, and right now he's got 2 broken legs, so he's probably not showering.
Yeah. He sits on the couch all day.
Yep.
He's playing Guitar Hero.
That's right. He's got a grippy that like grabs things for him and stuff, and he is a man-child. He's dopey as can be. Mm-hmm.
Dopey. Mm-hmm. Dopey is the best word I think you could describe this character as here. Anne thinks no one in government actually cares, so she's like, "Yeah, I guess that lady's coming over, but you know, no one in government actually cares. So we'll see if anything actually happens." I like the depiction of Anne here, as she grows to not only like get active in government, but to trust, at the very least, the Parks and Rec side of the government, right. And even more, really.
Put some trust in people.
I kind of wonder if it's a accidental character arc. Like, were they planning on having Ann Perkins do this, or did it just naturally develop that way? Because, like, listening to her in this first episode where she's like, I don't get involved in politics. I don't think anybody in the government actually cares. All this stuff, to them becoming like best friends with nothing but government workers, mm-hmm. is an interesting character
and
arc.
Being a part of what they do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Andy wants her to go somewhere else to do her monologues. This is where it is kind of mockumentary style. It's not that soliloquy style yet, because he acknowledges the fact that she's talking to the camera.
Right.
Leslie comes with a hard hat on. Tom is there, along with
April.
Another character. Rachel, did you
Wednesday
get
Addams.
an impression? Yeah, it's basically Wednesday Addams. Jenny Ortega probably owes Aubrey Plaza something for her career, right?
They had juice, like they did like that one thing, that one stupid celebrity, let's stroke each other's egos. Like, what are those called when they give each other awards? They had them do an announcement together.
Oh, did they really? Okay.
There's a clip of them. They're like, I don't know why we're doing this together, and it's just like a back and forth with them acting that way.
Acting like that.
Yes. Yeah. And then they turn to each other, and she goes, "I get it now."
Because Jenny Ortega is just the next generation. She's just the PS2 to the PlayStation 1 of Aubrey Plaza.
Yeah.
Both have pretty well gotten typecast. Jenny Ortega especially has got typecast.
She
at
really
this point,
has,
but
yeah, considering she's in Beetlejuice
really
now.
You're playing Lydia Dietz's kid after you just played Wednesday Addams, after you were in Scream.
You know what you're
doing. Maybe she really likes it,
She probably does.
So April, being April, as an intern, how would you describe her? Like, did you get any, like,
apathetic
vibe out of her? Yeah, apathetic is probably the exact word that you should use at this point. We don't know her, like, proclivities for, like, weirdness and, like, you know, death and stuff like that.
Sure.
But she's very apathetic.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Leslie says, like, this is going to be fun. And she goes, yeah, so much fun. With that tone, you understand it right from the off that she's like, that's all you need. There she is.
That's her personality right in a nutshell. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And then we get Andy meeting Leslie. They shake hands. And Leslie says, the entire government would like to let you know that we will do everything we can to help you. And Andy asks for his itch stick. So she hands him the itch stick, and he starts scratching himself in front of them. Yes. I thought he was scratching, like, his thigh, because he's got the leg braces on.
Yeah, it's underneath his leg.
Is he scratching his crotch? Is
no,
he, like,
it's going inside of his cast. It's going inside of his cast. It almost.
I mean,
could be
either
crotch,
way,
but still,
either way, it works. It works either way as a joke. The pacing of this episode is slower than you're used to with Parks and Rec, so there is like this deafening silence as he scratches himself,
which is great.
As they're waiting for Anne.
It's great, but it's such a good pause. It's such a like an open, pregnant pause of silence while he's scratching himself.
Anne shows them where he fell, and I thought that this was a pretty big cavernous pit.
This is huge.
Like it's deep. It's definitely like a nuisance, and it is a problem. Like, you would definitely want this to be fixed if you lived near it.
It's an ugly safety hazard.
The metal fences around it and everything. It's just a pain in the ass.
I didn't even notice there were two children like staring in at them while they were over here.
What? Like staring in at them while they're like at the pit?
Yeah.
Anyway, Leslie says that she imagines a shiny new playground there with a bunch of courts, a football field, and an amphitheater.
Nuts. Yes.
Because it's Leslie, and she always oversells it. And Anne goes, it's really not that big of a pit.
We could do some of those things.
I love that most of Anne's lines are just in reaction to other people saying like ridiculous things, and she says them softly, and people like almost ignore them.
Yes.
Like she's almost like, it's really not that big of a pit. And like Leslie's already on to the next thing.
Right.
She says she's going to go in, and she's like, is that safe? And Leslie says, well, I've got a hard hat on. And she tries to climb down, and she stumbles back, and she rolls into the pit and like falls back into it. Hell of a stunt.
Oh my God.
For this opening episode, this pilot episode of Parks and Rec. This like Pratt fall into it.
Well, Pratt did fall into
April.
it.
Thank you, Rachel. Do you think his real name is his real name Chris Pratt because it's Pratfall? Is that just a happy coincidence that he's like a?
I don't know what his real name is.
Does
he have a different name?
I assume it is Chris Pratt. It's interesting that it's like a happy accident that.
Yeah, it says that's his real name. I think it is just a happy accident. Kind of fun.
Doesn't true. Yeah. So much fun. Leslie had told April to get some photos of the pit.
Yes.
So that they could take it as like evidence of like how much it needs to be filled in. So as Leslie falls into the pit, I can't remember if she says take some photos or if Tom says, well, you better get some photos so that he could humiliate Leslie.
They were saying take pictures beforehand. She falls in, and then they like say like you have to stay still so we can get some good pictures.
Oh,
we gotta get some photos for the website, and
that's right. Okay.
Stop moving around so much because she's like writhing on the ground.
Yes, she's writhing back and forth. It's actually really funny acting by Amy Poehler because she's just rolling around going, "This is terrible. I'm in so much pain." We learn Anne is a nurse as she attends to Leslie. She goes down into the pit, and Leslie says, "It's a good thing I was wearing that hard hat. It had fallen off."
Yes.
So
Anne's just like, it fell off, and she goes, "Well, after it hit, my head hit that rod," and you look at it, and you're like, "Oh, that would have killed her. That would have killed her."
So now Andy and Leslie are both on the couch in pain.
Yes.
Which is funny because they're both sitting there whining. Leslie is actually fine, though. She did not break her clavicle like she thought she did.
She really wants one of those things you put around your neck. And honestly, part of me thinks she's just doing it up to try to get them to do something about it. Like, she's like, okay, if I can just pretend.
If I can show that I also fell, yeah.
Yes, and I'm hurt. Look how easy it is to fall into this pit.
Even though I was trying to climb down into
You don't know what she was doing. In high heels. In a tight skirt.
In high heels.
Goofy.
Yes. Andy asks Anne to make some pancakes, and Leslie's like, oh, pancakes! Are we having pancakes?
This is before we even know she's, like, in love with pancakes and loves breakfast foods.
Waffles. She loves waffles.
That's true. She's more of a waffle woman. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. She'll probably take the pancake, but she really wants the waffles.
She loves breakfast.
Everyone in this show loves breakfast.
That's also very true.
This show's very, very breakfast. Yeah. In fact, folks at home, if you want, you can always, if you listen to Shelf Life however you listen to Shelf Life, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but when you re-listen to the episodes of Parks and Rec, you might want to do it around the breakfast table. Just have Shelf Life on,
waffles.
Eating some breakfast, or
have
doing
some
breakfast for dinner.
Yeah.
Chicken and waffles, also a possibility. You need to put all
the
of
eggs and
bacon
bacon you have.
I want you to pause for a second on that, Rachel. I heard you say was that you want a lot of eggs and bacon. But what I think you meant was that you want all the bacon and eggs you have.
That's right. That's right.
Can't wait till we get to do that. I don't even remember what episode that is. I think it's way down the line. They hug as she leaves, and Anne says she's doofy, but sweet, which is probably a pretty good synopsis of Leslie Knope.
And we know she likes doofy and sweet, because that's also what the other one that was sitting
Andy
on her couch.
Yeah, which we don't know yet, because at this point he's supposed to be way less sweet.
Right, he's just kind of a jerk and dope.
Leslie goes to Ron while wearing a travel pillow as a brace. Yep. To your point, Rachel, she wanted to... I did not remember this at all. I did not remember this part at all.
I remembered this.
So when I saw it, I was like, is she wearing a travel pillow? And then Ron goes, are you wearing a travel pillow with duct tape? And she asks him if he's been to the pit. And he goes, no, I have not been in the pit. And she goes, well, I have. When I fell in. She shows the pictures of her falling in.
She fell in, but he's never gotten to visit it yet. And she wants him to understand.
I haven't gotten to visit it yet.
I fell.
Yeah.
I was in it. Here's the pictures of
I love the way that she puts the pictures out like it's like evidence.
Yes.
Like she's seen a lawyer
and they
on
get
television.
Closer and closer, and the last one just looked like her dead body laying in the pit.
And she asked Ron for a huge request. A subcommittee.
That's right.
I love how bureaucratic it all is, because it's not like she wants the pit filled. She wants a subcommittee so that she can have a team to discuss the possibilities of what they can do with the pit so that they can get it filled.
It's one step at a time.
A soliloquy by Ron where we get his life philosophy. He doesn't want any parks. He doesn't want them to build any parks. All government is a waste of taxpayer money. He wants the government to be run by corporations, and all parks to be run by corporations. Like Chuck E. Cheese. They have a hell of a business model. He'd rather work for Chuck E. Cheese. He tells her that he will definitely think about it, and then he throws the pictures away as she leaves. She comes back and wants an update, and he says he's still mulling it, and he's like, she is insatiable. Like a dog with a chew toy. So she will not stop asking. You see her persistence. You see this throughout Parks and Rec with Leslie Knope. It stays as a trait of hers.
It's when she is passionate about something, she's gonna stick with it. Mm-hmm. She's gonna force it to happen.
That's right. Tom and April show Mark the photos, including the upskirt photo. So they do not respect her at this point nearly as much as they do going forward. Although I could see them doing this going forward, but they would do it in a more tongue-in-cheek way.
Yes.
This felt crueler.
Right.
This felt meaner. I don't know why, but this just felt meaner than even if they did the same thing further down the line.
Yeah, there's something about the way they're doing it. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but I understand what you mean. This does seem crueler.
Yeah. Mark says that Leslie is unique, and we see that Tom has sent out an email with all the pictures to everyone in the city hall. Mark says that he lost his optimism about government about 2 months into his job.
That's fair.
And Leslie's been doing this for 6 years and hasn't lost it at all. I do kind of wonder if people lose it. Like, folks at home, for those of our Shelf Life listeners that work in the government, I know you're out there. I know that this is how you spend your days, listening to Shelf Life. Is it like this, where, like, everyone is dispassionate as Mark Brandanowitz, or do you have your Leslie Nopes? Is it a mixture, like it eventually becomes?
Yeah. Does it actually feel like people care, or is it just a bunch of people trying to get by and not really giving a shit about
I could definitely
anybody else?
I could see it becoming like Mark is saying it is, and eventually one day Rachel will also do Abbott Elementary, where I could feel it that way too, where it's like you just give up on the system because the system fails you so much as you're trying. You go from idealist to just get by, you know?
Yeah.
He says that he's been able to get by because he has all these rules about how to live and deal with working for the government, but he says he's going to break one of the rules. And Mark goes to Ron, and he says he thinks that they should build the park. And we don't learn what this is, and I don't know if we ever do, but Ron says, "Are you cashing in your favor?" And he says, "Yes." So I don't know what that is, but he's cashing in some sort of favor that he has with Ron.
Yeah, I was going to say, he must have done something for Ron, but I don't know. I don't have a clue what that is.
I never know if we learn that. Anne goes to City Hall, and Leslie shows her around. She shows her the mural of settlers killing the Wamapoke Native American tribe. It's so graphic that they have to cover up part of it with a poster because kids come through on field trips and stuff.
It's horrific.
Tom comes trotting up, saying, "We did it! Ron approved our subcommittee," and they all are happy and they celebrate. And Leslie says that she's barely 34 and already made a subcommittee. And I went, "You are barely 34? I thought she was older than that." And I just wrote, "God, I feel old as shit." So because of that, Rachel, I looked it up. Because I was like, there's no fucking way that Amy Poehler was 34. Because if she is, then I've done nothing with my life. She was 38.
Okay.
So
lies.
I still feel old as shit. That doesn't help me that much, but at least I was like, okay. And she's not really 34.
How dare you say you've done nothing with your life? You have a podcast about the truth of pop culture.
5 volumes worth.
Volumes of it.
Volumes.
Dare you say you've done nothing?
Hours of it. Literally days worth of content.
Literally.
That's a trailer moment.
Market trailer moment.
Tom says she always gets plastered at these. Tom once convinced her to go stop a crime while she was drunk because she was dressed as Batman on Halloween.
It's hilarious.
Anne and Leslie do a drunk monologue together then too, and Anne makes a vow to get the pit filled in, and she says, even if it takes 2 months. So they bond. And then the final scene is of Ron, and he's explaining how he decorated his office to express how he feels about the government. He has a sawed-off shotgun pointing at anyone that comes in to sit down so that they feel like they're, like, under the gun. And then he's got a picture of Bobby Knight because this is his basketball court, hence the Bobby Knight poster. And he just goes, "Bobby Knight!" as he exits. And that's the end of the episode. That is the end of Pilot. Rachel, any thoughts about revisiting Pilot here?
Like I said at the beginning, it was so interesting to go back and feel the pacing and how quiet it feels. It feels a lot different, but it still feels like Parks and Rec. So it has like that tone of just not taking itself too seriously, but also, you know, having like all that tongue-in-cheek stuff going on at the same time. I like that. Yeah.
It's very simple. It's very simple. It kicks things off. Whether they meant to or not, it definitely kicks things off for the rest of the series.
Yes.
In this episode.
Absolutely.
You get a little of everyone. A little of Leslie's personality, a little of all our main characters, except for Donna and Jerry, and even that you get a little sense bit of their personality.
I do think Jerry would have volunteered, and she would have been like, anybody but Jerry, anybody else. That's what would have happened later on.
Yeah, you're right. Overall, I felt like it was a pilot. Feels like a pilot. Feels like they're testing things.
They're putting their toes in the water just to see what happens.
One thing to mention about this first season, because it was truncated down, I think it was Amy Poehler or maybe it was Michael Schur, like someone said, it felt like you get to film the pilot and then you figure things out and you get to build on that as time goes by and you get feedback and things like that. And you get to learn chemistry about which characters work best together and all this stuff. And that's why we see these shows grow, especially these comedies. Because of her pregnancy, and because they cut it down to 6 episodes, they shot them all very quickly back to back.
Oh, sure.
So she said, I think it was her, again, I can't remember. She said that it almost felt like they were just filming one giant pilot. That there just wasn't enough time to make any adjustments.
To get any feedback, to adjust the characters. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
So, like, the season 1 is pilot.
Yeah, so it's almost like season 1 is the whole pilot. But yes. That was Pilot by Parks and Rec. I thought it was okay. I thought it gets the ball rolling. It feels essential to kind of start you off on the journey of Parks and Rec in Pawnee. When we come back, we will continue our journey into Pawnee, Indiana, and small town government with episode number 2,
Canvassing.
After the break.
Hi, I'm Nick Newport Jr., CEO of Sweetums. And I'd like to introduce to you our new line of energy bars, Nutri-Yums. Nutri-Yums are all natural and grown right here in the great state of Indiana. And since they're from Sweetums, you know your kids are going to love them. Mine sure do. Isn't that right, Dakota? Denver? Sorry, Shoelace. We don't make Nutri-Yums for dogs. Yet.
Nutri-Yums, where nutritious meets tasty, by Sweetums.
And we're back! I was waiting for Rachel to give me the signal. She did. With another episode of Parks and Recreation. I was just saying to you offline, Rachel, like, it is funny because of the tone that we take with some of these comedy shows, because you can't really do bits on comedy because it's already comedy.
Sure.
Either it's comedy or it's not comedy.
Right.
So we break it down more of, like, what are the characters doing? And does
the story.
Analyzing it on a non-comedy basis. Yeah, it's interesting how that works. For those of you that like the more bits and Kevin's having a tantrum because of logic and stuff episodes, there's plenty of that, too, in Volume 5. Shrek is a good example. So anyway,
Shrek is a very good example.
Remember when we were talking about how Parks and Rec is a summer listen? Like, if you were to listen to this back, any of our episodes of Shelf Life back, when would you listen to Halloween is Halloween or whatever? And like, we were like, Parks and Rec, that's a summer listen, but we're having this come out like...
And this episode has Easter in it.
That's right. Rachel.
3 different seasons there.
The whole gamut. What episode are we discussing currently now?
Episode 2.
Now.
Canvassing.
That's right. What, Rachel, if you had to give the elevator pitch for Canvassing, what would you say
You didn't have me do that with the first one.
I know, I always forget with the pilot for some reason. I don't know. It's a pilot. I don't want to give away what happens in it. It's the pilot.
I suppose. These are so short, too, that it feels like if I give you, like, a 1-sentence summary, it's like, yeah, that's what it is. Okay, continuing. But this one is them continuing with the pit, because now they have to canvass the people to come to a meeting to talk about how they want a park there.
They're trying to get...
people to be on their side.
A beat on the town to be able to drum up support for it. Yeah, right. Exactly. Canvassing, of course, a real thing. I think from globally, I think it's a real thing, but who knows? But like in the States, it definitely is, where you'll get local activists or
solicitors.
I mean, they're trying to do... Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I can distinctly remember a couple of times. I've never gotten one to knock on my door, and I've always been interested in if they'll knock on my door. I can distinctly remember someone was running for something, and she was canvassing for it, and Dad answered the door.
Yeah.
And God help that woman. Because I don't remember what it was, but he did a dad rant about some shit about, like, you know, whatever. And I cannot remember what it was. And I think she was, like, part of the political machine of, like, the greater city or whatever. So I think he knew that and was giving her a hard time. It was just like, Dad, why just tell her thank you and have her leave? But I think he was just messing with her. And so I know that it's happened a couple of times, for sure.
I haven't had politics come to my door, but I feel like it's one of those things that I could see happen. Yeah, I have. So
yes, let's get right into canvassing here. It starts with the Pawnee, the cold open is the Pawnee Easter egg hunt.
That's right.
Tom was in charge of hiding the eggs in the park for all of the kids to find, and they haven't found any of them yet.
He made it so hard this year.
Yeah,
Leslie didn't do it at all.
yeah. The naive optimist Leslie is like, he really did a good job. We haven't been able to find any. And she's like telling this little girl, like, we're going to find them. And it cuts to Tom at some point during this, and he just goes, I forgot to do it.
Yes. So... And he just shakes his head when she said, we're going to find some. Oh, my God. And
that's a pretty good bit.
It is.
I like that.
It's great. This is where I, like, definitely noticed Donna's hair. Because she's sitting at, like, the table, and she just has this little pixie, like, I'm a housewife woman, like, look, and I just, like, no.
It doesn't fit Donna. It doesn't fit her. But a very good bit here. If I was Tom, I would have been, like, throwing the eggs when people weren't looking. Like, go get the eggs
you're just like,
now,
oh, hey!
And then, like, toss them.
Kid, look over here. Yeah, like... Yeah. Well, I feel like the Tom later would have done that. Because he would want more approval of everybody.
Yes. Yeah. This Tom being a little more Jim Halpert than not is like, whatever, I don't care.
Like, it doesn't matter.
It's not even Jim Halpert. He's so apathetic and, like, mean or, like, cynical about it that he, like, doesn't, if he's not getting anything out of it, he's not going to, like, try. Which fits
right.
Tom
if he's not
going to
get anything out of it and he's not going to get in trouble for it, he's not going to do anything. And since she kind of just thinks, wow, he just did a really good job this year.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not getting in trouble, so it doesn't matter.
Leslie goes to see her mom. She's a big mucky muck in the county school system. I think later on, I don't think in this episode, but I think later on we learn that she actually got Leslie the interview for the job.
Yes.
I know that they kind of reveal that at some point. I know that Ron ends up hiring her because he thinks that she'll do all the work so he won't have to do anything. But I think that even in this, it's almost like she's a Nepo baby because, like, she's connected. Her mom is already in the government, that kind of thing.
Right.
Which they keep. They keep that as part of her story.
Oh, absolutely.
The picture has changed from Nancy Pelosi. I think it's Gloria Allbright, but it's just women in politics. I think it would have been fun if they changed it up, like, all the time.
All the time. It's really fun that she just constantly, it's like she needs a specific woman to, like, help her with what she's doing at that moment.
Well, I think eventually, because I know that she, like, ends up with Eleanor Roosevelt and, like, all of these
she has,
different,
like, a whole shrine to all of the
women.
Yes.
Yeah. She tells her mom that she's just there. She wants to gossip and talk about stuff with her. And her mom says that she's super busy. The mom has a very big office, like a very nice office within City Hall. I can't remember if we ever learn exactly what she is, but we just know that she works for, like, the school district, right?
She's a mucky muck. Doesn't that tell you everything?
Sort of. Isn't that what the... Folks at home, you can't see it, but Rachel's face, like, was doing laugh, and then she, like, went deadpan and just went, yeah, it does. It does. Like, very comical that you did that without, like, intentionally doing that. You were just like, yes, it does. As she's saying, like, oh, well, okay, well, if you're super busy. And then she, like, tries to brag to her mom that she has her own subcommittee.
That's right.
And they're going to have a town hall meeting. It's not a big deal,
but it is.
Yeah. She's trying to ask her mom to come. Her mom says that she probably can't because, you know.
She's
and
so
then eventually,
busy.
Yeah, and eventually she says she'll try to be there. We cut to them having lunch. Her
lunch meeting.
That's right.
That's
right.
Lunch.
The first lunch meeting, yes. At this little, like, metal picnic table. It's her, it's Tom, Mark, and April, I think, are her subcommittee, right? Is Anne there? Mm-hmm. I think Anne is there.
Anne is also there, yes.
Mark says, it really doesn't matter what you're able to do because the public is just going to pull you down. Like, if you, like, get them to the point to vote on this and they vote no, then nothing really matters. So, like, he's letting her have this, but it's almost like he's, like, trying to lead her to, like, look, Leslie, like, you can't be so optimistic about this.
You need to slow down from the public.
Yeah, you can't let the public get a hold of it because if they do, you're screwed. Mm-hmm. It reminds me on a more macro level, Rachel, around the country at the time of this recording, there are several cities that are trying to get new football stadiums. It started in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Kansas City was trying to get a new football stadium for the Chiefs. And it went to the public. And the public said, go fuck yourselves. You can build your own stadium.
Yeah.
And then the Bears were trying to do it. The Panthers were trying to do it. The Bills were trying to do it. The Titans were trying to do it. And several others, I'm sure, too. But like, there's a handful that are trying to do it. And I remember talking to my dad about it. And I was like, if the Chiefs, who at the time of this recording have won 2 straight Super Bowls, if the public tells them no, what are the chances that any of these other cities are going to not say no?
It's like one of those things, too. Is it just because they need to get, like, the permits and, like, the approval to have it put somewhere?
They all want city money because
they don't deserve it.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
You guys get enough money, do it yourselves.
Yeah, do it yourselves.
Why would they ever think that the people are going to pay for that when they know how many millions of dollars they are being given?
They used to always do it. So what would always
when it wasn't millions upon millions of dollars being given to each person. That's
billions
goofy.
Of dollars.
Yes.
But they used to do it all the time, and they would raise your taxes or whatever. But they would always say that it brings in jobs and it always pays for itself because it brings in all these tourists and stuff. Mm-hmm. The problem is people are wiser now about what the spending really is. And in a lot of these cases, they don't bring in the money that they ever claim that they're going to get.
Oh, sure.
And people know that. And people are like, no, don't give me the art rendering of this beautiful stadium. Don't show me all these people attending all these events. This isn't going to happen. So now people are a lot more cynical about it.
Yeah.
And they usually will vote against it. So in the cases of some of these, like Buffalo and South Carolina, where the Panthers play? I think it's North Carolina. But where the Panthers play, I think the city voted on it and they didn't let it go to the public. So my analogy there. And like Tennessee, in Nashville, the Titans try to do it, and they're like fighting with the people because, like, some people are like,
that'll
let the public
definitely
do it.
Happen. Oh, sure.
Yeah. So my analogy there was all to say that Mark's point is almost like, don't let the people decide on this. Like,
right.
If you do this internally,
behind
you can get it
doors,
done.
And then let them know what's happening.
She says, because of this, though, that they should just go canvass. And Mark just puts his head in his hands. I love the way that Mark puts his head in his hands. This is really good, because he's just like, you can tell he hates canvassing. And yes. The rest of them don't really understand it. And he's just like, oh, dear Lord. Because he's a city planner. Like, he's an engineer for the city. But even he has to deal with, like, garbage all the time because it's working for the government. Mm-hmm. They just don't understand, like, how much of a pain in the ass this is going to be. And she says, how many more must fall into this pit? So they all go out to do their canvassing. Aziz here, Rachel, I don't know about you, but, like, Aubrey Plaza looks younger. Chris Pratt looked chubbier. Mm-hmm. Aziz was the other character that I thought, or actor, that I thought looked way younger. Other than Donna's
He does look
hair.
Younger.
He looks skinnier.
I think
I was going to
say, I think it's the thinness of him that kind of makes him look a little younger here.
I'm not saying that, like,
and his
Aziz
hairstyle
has
and
ever,
stuff.
Yeah, the hairstyle, because it's way more flat and swooped over.
Right.
Like in his, like, bangs
Again, a little
almost.
less polished.
Yes. Yeah, a little less polished than what you would expect from Tom,
because
who's, like, all about style.
too.
Yeah.
And more polished.
not that Aziz Ansari has ever been anything but like a skinny stick.
Oh God, no!
But
he looks identical
like
to how he looks now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but he looks. But you can tell there's a youngerness to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's doing some more Jim Halperts as Leslie is talking about the importance of canvassing and everything, and we get the first Leslie Knope binder.
Yes,
I thought that was a big moment.
It was a big moment.
The first binder.
Her canvassing binders. That's right.
And she's come up with a ton of different scenarios in which they are going to answer depending on who answers the door. So, like, Tom uses an example that if it's somebody that looks like a celebrity, try to make it fit the celebrity. So if it's somebody that looks like Jack Nicholson, you use, like, you can't handle the truth about the pit or whatever.
Yeah, it's something very silly. It's like she used... Oh, God. It's in the police when they... identify people. No, when they identify people by characteristics and traits and personalities.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that called?
Is that a term?
There's a term for it.
I didn't know if there was a word for it. I honestly don't know.
God damn it, hold on. Profiling.
Well, profiling. Okay.
So it's almost like police profiling, where like she's taking characteristics and personalities and traits of people and going, okay, this would work for them, and this is how
this person will want.
Yes.
Yeah. She says that the three of them will take one side, her and Anne will take the other side, and they're gonna win. And April, in a very unenthusiastic voice, goes, "What are we winning? Or win what?"
Yes.
And then she starts just running to the other side. That reminded me of the episode of The Office where Michael and all the salesmen go sales hunting, and he says like, "It's the Amazing Race, and we're gonna win." Like it's a very similar scene. But I mean, it is, you're talking about how this is similar in tone. This was written by Rachel Axler and directed by Seth Gordon, so it's not actually written by the team of Greg Daniels and Michael Schur, but you got a writer's room together and you're all like thinking of that kind of thing, and you're going to end up, with that sort of similar jokes. Leslie and Anne Leslie tells Anne to look humble, but confident. So Anne keeps changing her facial expressions. Rashida Jones keeps changing how she looks as they go to answer the door.
Because she's just a nurse. She has really no
She has no idea what she's doing
in this. Yeah.
And she even says at the end of Pilot, she says like, people always say, as she's drunkenly saying it, but she says like, people always say if you want to make a change, you have to get involved. And she's like, I'm getting involved. So she's trying to make a change for the better here.
That's right.
A woman answers the door and Leslie goes to the binder and asks the woman if they turn the pit into a park, if she'd be happy about it. And she says, yeah, I would. Like, that sounds like a really good idea. And Anne starts to talk to her and says, like, oh, well, I'm glad to hear you say that. Like, I live over there. And Leslie, like, stops her because she doesn't want her to deviate from the script of the binder.
Yes. And tells her, like, what page to look at.
Yeah,
and that's when she goes to it and she kind of just reads it.
And the woman eventually tells them that she's not going to go to the meeting, but, like, good luck.
Right.
Then it goes to the other three, Mark, April, and
yes,
Tom.
And they found a man.
They found a guy who I think becomes a regular. I know he's like in the background. He becomes a character
he has to.
in the greater Pawnee area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this park going to have a playground or, maybe a pool for the kids?
Oh, how old are your kids?
No kids.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to put him down as a yes.
Don't do that.
Also, is the park going to be at least 1,000 feet from my house? Because, I really can't move again.
April, please stand behind me. That's it. That's all. That's all we got.
No flyer?
Nope.
Clearly, he's a sex pest. That's the joke there. So they stop talking to him.
That's the joke.
Yeah, that's the joke.
Immediately try to stop talking to him. I think April, just to be an ass, is just like, well, you could still come to the thing.
Yeah, still show your support, whatever.
Yes.
So Mark says, this is really a great way to spend my time. And Tom says, you know what, I'm going to go solo. And he just runs off. And he runs really weird, which I think they keep throughout the series as well, that he runs weird.
I think he does. Mm-hmm.
And doesn't April even say he runs weird?
Yep, yes, exactly.
Another character here, it's actually the owner of Dunder Mifflin. Is this character actor. He shows up as Mifflin or Dunder, I can't remember which one, in The Office at some point.
Oh yeah, he does, doesn't he? The face is actually familiar for that.
Yeah. Tom gets on a phone call and he tries to make some deals. And I think he's actually pretty good at it. He's self-serving.
Yes.
It's a little unethical.
Of course.
But he's actually doing a fairly decent job because he's
right.
getting people that would help to build the park.
Yes.
On board with it.
Because they'd be like, well, we would be able to do something.
Yeah.
And have a part in it.
It would get the job done, even though the unethical part of it, of course, is that he's kind of promising contracts
right.
to... Yeah.
Which is something you shouldn't do.
But he's at least drumming up some support. Like if he were to just do it with a bunch of different companies, like he's doing it with specific companies to try to like promise them like a cut or something like that, you know?
Right.
Anne and Leslie are walking some more. I keep thinking I'm calling them by their real names, the actors' names, but then I realize I'm not.
No.
And then I'm like, no, I just know them so well as these characters that I'm getting them confused. Leslie and Anne are walking, and Anne says it's really hot, and Leslie says, well, we could just blow in each other's faces.
Which is a weird thing to say.
Which, like, Rashida Jones does a really good job of reacting to something like that, because she just looks like, what did you say?
Why? What is that? How is that a response?
And Leslie realizes it and says, like, or drink some water, take a break. Anne says that they could just go to her house. It's like a 5-minute walk.
Mm-hmm.
And Leslie tells Anne to open the sealed envelope in the binder.
That's right.
So there's a sealed envelope in the binder. And Leslie says, if you want to guarantee the results of a survey, you manipulate the questions. So she's written up some questions to be able to ask people that will mess with their heads, because it's almost
right.
like
it's like a leading
the
question.
Double negatives. Yeah. Do you not support parks? That kind of thing.
Right.
So they go up to another woman, and she says she doesn't really like living by parks because they're loud.
Immediately goes, oh, I don't like parks. Yeah, I'm against that because they're loud and it's just too much.
They're loud. There's too many people, and kids come there. We've seen that, Rachel. We had a near the house where we grew up, there was a basketball court.
Oh, yeah.
And me and my friends would go play at the basketball court all the time. But it eventually got out that there was a very nice, it was a nice basketball court.
Right.
And it eventually got out that there was a nice basketball court. So you would just see teenagers from
different
across
cities.
the towns
come,
and they would start playing at this basketball court. And eventually it became like a trouble spot, because then you would get people from troubled areas coming to play basketball. And so eventually the city,
and fights, I think they had fights break out. They had fights break out. That was the problem.
Yeah. So I get it, because that's a park. It was very nice for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but eventually it becomes loud, and you get people coming in and out or whatever.
And there's just cars everywhere, because they're not just walking. It's they're coming from different towns.
Leslie tries to say that, that drug users say the same thing. Meth heads, 9 out of 10 meth heads say that they don't like parks. And she's like, what? Where are you getting that? And she's like, we did a survey of drug addicts. And Anne is trying to, walk Leslie back. And Leslie is upset about the fact that, this woman has said that she doesn't care about parks because she can't fathom such a thing. So Leslie says, you know what? If you don't like parks, if you don't support this park, then you don't care about your kids. And the woman had said, good luck to them. She supports what they're trying to do.
It's fine. Go ahead. I'm just not going to be involved.
It's not for me.
I'm just against it. Right.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I understand that it's better, but, whatever you want to do, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
But this sets this woman off, which it should.
Oh, my God.
Leslie...
Yeah, of course. You're just telling me now I don't care about my kids? How dare you?
Yeah, this is a very, again, not to continue to compare her to Michael Scott or compare it to The Office, but this is one of those jerk-ass Homer type things here with Leslie saying this. So she isn't as sympathetic here. This woman says, when is this meeting? And she takes the flyer and she goes, you know what? I'll be there. So Leslie has sufficiently turned someone against her, which is the exact opposite thing that she was supposed to do, which is why Mark said, do not take this to the public until you have a story.
Exactly.
Anne says something about Andy. Is that why they're named Anne and Andy? Is that why he ended up being Andy? Because she's Anne? So it's like Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy?
Maybe, because there is a Raggedy Ann doll in her house.
Is there? That makes sense. Doesn't she go as Raggedy Ann for Halloween in one of the episodes?
I think she does. Maybe that might be exactly why.
I just put that together because they weren't intending for him to be a main character.
Right.
So he was just supposed to be, like, in the first season. So I bet that's why he was named Andy, because it was Ann and Andy.
I like it.
Leslie thinks that they can use Andy's medical issues and his bills and stuff for sympathy. And Leslie thinks it's a good idea to have, like, a symbol. He's our symbol about how bad the pit is.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Ron is in his office and he gets questioned by the city manager, who walks in and says that he's really happy that they're going ahead with this park plan because, like, that's one of the initiatives that, as a city manager, he's trying to get more parks made and all of this stuff. So he's really happy about it. And he tells them, like, good luck at the public hearing. He's going to be there. And Ron, like, imitates him or something as he walks away. I wasn't quite sure what he says, but he, like, does something under his breath, thinking that he walked away, but he didn't. Like, the city manager's like, wait, what's that? What's that? And Ron's like, oh, nothing. It seemed uncharacteristic of Ron Swanson.
Yeah, like a little weird that he would do something like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't intend to do... He's definitely more, I'm going to say it to your face.
Yeah, he's not going to do it
under my
behind
breath.
Your back. Yeah, under your breath. He would have just been like, I really don't care about this.
He would have just said it straight
part.
To you. Yeah, I don't care about this. I don't care.
Maybe that goes
and then he just turns away. Like, that's all he has to do.
Yeah, can't wait till you're there. Yeah. I guess that could kind of go hand in hand with our idea of, like, he stops wearing the suit, where it's like he stops trying to pretend to get along with the government workers. He just is saying, don't care.
He's had it. I've had it. Taking the suit off, I'm going to tell you to your face.
He's got all that gold buried in the woods, and he's got enough of it at that point that he just stops caring. Ron explains that there's a bunch of federal money that's been coming in to do stuff like build the parks and social programs and things like this, and Ron does not like it. I don't remember, because again, I would have been in college at the time, if because of the Great Recession there was money for social programs and things like that. I don't think that was the case because of the fact that we were in a recession, so people were not going to want to spend money on anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see a scenario where maybe there were federal grants to try to, like, keep people employed or not foreclose on houses or something like that. Kind of like when COVID happened. I only using COVID because, like, if you remember COVID, there was a ton of federal money going out to the states in order to keep people, healthy and around and employed and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, a lot of states now, like, had to find things to do with it, or they had to give it back.
Exactly.
So, like, I don't know where you live, Rachel. I know where I live, where, like, Mom and Dad live. There were different things that were just popping up, and it was like, what? Why are they doing this? And, like, you'd find out, like, oh, it's old COVID money. They, like, just had to do shit. Yeah,
exactly.
It's not too dissimilar to, like, people that have budgets at work, and you, like, need to make the budget, so you, like, do something so that you don't get your budget cut the next year because you've underspent. It's all stupid. At the end of the day.
So it's all stupid and tricky.
I have a little bit of Ron Swanson in me to be able to say, like, the government can be way too bureaucratic. I do think that it serves a purpose, but I think that you don't let people explain what it is and have enough time to really dive into, like, how can we fix this before there's another election or before there's some fight or something, so that
there's going to be something phony and nothing actually ever gets done, and then it's all just kind of talked about and wishy-washy, and then it's like still nothing's done. It's like, come on. Why does this always have to be a thing so it can be your platform? This is annoying. Actually do something about it. It doesn't have to always be a platform.
Like, we can make a progress. We'll come to vote for the next thing. Like, you can't... Yeah, you have to, like, continue to... Or even, like, when they gave all the money out for COVID, and then there's all that fraud. So then it became... That became a problem. So then there's all of that, and then people don't trust the next time.
Yes.
So it's so complicated, and I always wonder, does it need to be that complicated? And is it complicated because the people that are in the power seats want it to be complicated because then normal people can't spend any time on it because it's too complicated?
I think so. It's like all that legal talk and all, like, if you ever look at, like, legal documentation and things that you have to sign, like, I agree to this. All of that stuff is so obnoxious to have to go through because of, like, the verbiage they use. It's ridiculous. Half the time you don't know what the hell they're saying. It's like, sometimes I go, do you even know what you're saying? Like, it's so goofy.
So I do think that sometimes, like, it just becomes so bureaucratic because of that. And everything should be a discussion. Everything should be a debate. And you should be able to, like, negotiate. But, like, we've said in, like, different episodes, like, it just, some stuff gets just so much ham and shit piled on it that it can become, like, so obtuse to be able to tell, is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? What... But and then that's where you get the civil servants like Leslie, where it's like you need these people to do these regular everyday things for your life to be the way it is. You need to be able to drink water. If the dude isn't checking the water every day, you're fucked. So you need that guy to be checking the fucking sewer water.
Exactly.
Anyway, rant over. I lost my spot. They go back to Anne's house, and Andy, Mark, and April are playing Rock Band as they walk in.
Yes.
So Mark and April have given up. They've decided that they'd rather play Rock Band with Andy. And Leslie, very tepidly or nebbishly, throws the binder on the ground.
Right. She's pissed.
She's pissed. She's pissed at them, yeah.
Yep.
Mark and Leslie are driving back, and Mark goes to say something, and Leslie goes, "Don't." Which I like that little bit, because, like, you could tell Mark's trying to come up with, like, a reason, and
something
Leslie's
to say.
In a soliloquy, Leslie says, in Russia, they could pretend it's a park, because they could just pretend to play with the rocks, and, it's dirt clods, and all this kind of stuff. But we're a nation of dreamers, and it is her dream to build a park to one day visit with her White House staff on her birthday.
That's right.
Which might be foreshadowing for the end of the
It kind
series,
of does.
to be honest.
It kind of does. They probably knew that from the start, that they were going to have her be something big.
I don't know.
Or try to do something big.
Because I think that they were more thinking that she's just kind of buffoonish as a bureaucrat. I don't think that they thought Leslie Knope would become this optimistic symbol of hope in government.
Right.
I think that they thought that she was a symbol of reality of government.
Sure.
Leslie wants to postpone the meeting. She goes to Ron and says that she wants to postpone the meeting, but Ron says no. They can't because him and the city manager were in here just sharing ideas, and they decided to fast-track the project. She says, "Oh, really? Like, you and the city manager were talking?" And he's like, I just want you to do a good job tomorrow. And he realizes that she's sweating through the suit.
Yes.
I don't think you see it, though. Like, I feel like she should have lifted her arms, and there should have been, like, the sweat stains.
You think that would have been better than just
I think that would have been funnier. Yeah. Yeah. Give me the visual. Give me the visual of the sweat stains through the suit.
Sure. Like a dress shirt or, like, suit?
Through the dress shirt, for sure. It is so impossible, which is why it's such a joke that, like, you could see sweat through the suit. But sweat through the armpits while wearing a suit? Absolutely. that I have seen. I don't think I've ever done it, like, obtusely, but I've had friends that have done it, for sure. Tom is doing some marketing here. He's made reserved seats.
Hold on. I've never had nice dress clothes sweat where it's, like, seeable, right? But, like, regular, like, t-shirts if I'm out and it's, like, really hot, or, like, a tank top or something. And the bigger problem is being a woman is you get that boob sweat. So now you have, like, all that boob sweat. You can see that under your shirt.
The under boob sweat?
The under boob sweat. Yeah. It's just, like, that line that's, like, right there. It's, like, so obvious.
Well, fat guys get that with the rolls. They get that line or a roll if they don't have a big, like, beer belly and they're, like, sitting with the roll.
Sure.
You get that, too.
Sure.
I'm just trying to say that men could be sympathetic to that, Rachel. It's not just the boob sweat. But I understand your plight. And yeah, you would get that because
saying,
like
that's like another spot where it's just sweaty
under
as can
boob,
be.
Armpit.
Yes.
Taint, carriage, whatever she calls it in that commercial. Have you seen that commercial with the lady who's like
the woman who keeps spraying herself? This is all over body spray. You spray it everywhere. It's like, okay,
yeah.
All right.
And one of the things she always says is
talk.
under
Your voice
boob,
is grating.
vagina, or whatever. I've never, I don't think, gotten to the point where I've sweat. I've sweat on my back, and I've gotten like the back streak.
Oh yeah, the back
sweat.
beads. Yes.
Yeah, but like the full-on like collar of sweat, I've never done that.
Oh,
to my knowledge. Dad has done it. I've seen Dad do it.
Oh, yeah.
Dad gets sweaty, though, where, like,
but
he
Dad
drips
just gets
sweat. Like, his head gets sweaty.
I also drip. I will get that sweaty. But when it's hot enough, I'll be dripping sweat.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten that sweaty. Now I feel like I've never worked, like, a hard day's... Everyone's going to think I've never, like, I've been counting money my whole life.
I mean, I am the one who would work on the projects around the house with Dad.
I would work on the projects. I did the floor. Remember, I did the floor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did the roof. I went on the roof with him.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
That's right. I always associate with, like, sweating as, like, oh, that guy's working fucking hard. If, like, he's sweating.
Yeah.
So now I'm telling everybody that I haven't sweat
Dad
a lot.
also runs. It's, like, on the runs that he, like, actually sweats.
Okay, well, we'll have to talk about that someday. Dad's gonna hate this episode we're making fun of.
Well, we can't, he doesn't have, one, he doesn't want to listen to it. Two, you can cut all of that out. It doesn't have to make it into the actual episode. We're just chatting
Dad's not getting to this point. Tom is doing marketing here. He's got reserved seats for all the contractors that he was talking to and probably illegally telling that they could work on the jobs. The city manager and Ron are there, and they're talking about how they really want her to nail this, and they're telling her, like, good luck and stuff.
Right.
Leslie's super nervous. Anne brings Andy in as well, and Leslie asks April to go in the audience and be a plant, so that if the crowd starts to turn on her, she'll point her out and she can say something good about the park. And she's like, "Can you do that, April? Are you capable of that? Are you okay with that?" And she goes, "Probably."
April, I need you in the audience. Okay. Wait, and if the questions start getting negative, I'm gonna call on you, and I need you to sell the crap out of the park. Can you do that?
Why?
Please, April, this is serious. Can you do that?
Probably.
Good girl. Good girl.
It's such like an April statement.
Absolutely.
And Leslie's mom is there too.
And she is,
and
which makes it worse for Leslie.
It makes it worse for Leslie, but I thought it was nice that it shows that her mom is supporting her.
Right. Yes. It does show the actual support that she is getting. Because you don't get that when you first talk to the mom. The mom is kind of like, oh yeah, support, but also, no.
Yeah.
Go away.
In the other mockumentary that I brought up, she wouldn't show up. That would be like a talking point.
Exactly. But she's there.
She thinks about pulling the fire alarm, but then doesn't because it would be illegal.
That is illegal.
So she decides not to.
Also, probably would have been what actually happens in the other one.
Yes, probably. She starts the meeting, and her mom gives us a soliloquy where she says, she's always told Leslie, there's nothing wrong with being right in the middle, meaning like it's okay to be average or whatever.
I want my daughter to be successful, which is why I always tell her there's nothing wrong with being a wife and a mother.
I thought there was more. I thought she said something about being right in the middle, but maybe I misinterpreted her saying being a wife and mother with being right in the middle. Unless my DVD copy was different than your copy that you watched on Peacock, which is possible, but I think I probably just wrote it down
That's
wrong.
Literally
Folks
all that's said.
Let me know.
Maybe there's two different things that she says and your DVD says something different. That could be really interesting.
Yeah, because we didn't get into it, but folks, I watched my DVD copy, which, Rachel, I will have to say, compared to, like, because we talked about how we watched Trek on my 4K TV and player.
Yes.
But with a DVD, so it looked like total garbage trash.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I'm glad we did, because that's helped us.
That's proper.
The 4K player really upscaled this DVD. Like, it tried really hard to make it look good.
Well, that's probably because it's, like, realistic. I wonder if that's also why, because it's, like, real people and it's not animation. But
yeah,
I could see that. That I bet it looks really nice.
I don't have the Blu-rays. I'm always contemplating getting the Blu-rays. I don't see it anywhere, so I'm probably just going to assume that this was me misinterpreting what she was saying and hearing that's because I thought that what she was saying was like she always tells Leslie to like shoot for the middle, so like it's okay to be average.
Sure,
but I do remember her saying I want my daughter to be successful. So maybe I just misheard. So then the rest of this episode is really defined by them being at this town hall meeting. None of the people passionately support her are there.
Right. And
the woman she insulted comes up to the mic and says that she's against the park. Her name is Katie Spivak. She thinks that the park is a bad idea. There haven't been any environmental impact studies or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And she rallies all the people that have showed up to be against her. And all the people applaud and stuff about the fact that they think that they're going too quick by trying to make the park already. One of the guys that Tom brought in leaves. He just gets up angrily, realizing that, like, this isn't going to happen. So he just storms out.
Right.
Leslie freezes up and doesn't know what to do. So Mark gets up and tries to help Leslie. I thought that they were trying to hint at more romance between the two of them by, like, the way that he grabs her and is like, yeah. Okay. I'm glad that you thought that too.
Yes.
Yeah. So he has her sit down because he's like, let me take over and try to, like, steer the direction differently.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts giving out specs on the lot. And one guy stands up and he comments about, and he says, I got a question for the guy in the cast. And Leslie's like, yes, that's Andy. He fell in the pit. He's our symbol. And this guy goes, this guy plays music all night in his garage.
Yeah.
And about, like, how much of an ass Andy is.
And he owes him money.
Point. Yeah, and he owes him money. And Andy says,
Lawrence lives with his grandma, which is pretty awesome. He takes care of her, I guess. But whatever, he's a douchebag.
So Andy starts fighting with this guy and says that he's in a band. Rachel, what's the name of his band at this point in episode 2? Did you catch it? Do you remember what his name of his band usually is?
I'm in a band. It's called Just the Tip.
Just the Tip, yeah.
Oh, it's something with mouse. Mouse Rat is another
it's
one?
It's normally Mouse Rat.
Yeah, this one's Just the Tip.
He's in Just the Tip at this point. Or at least that's the name of the band right now. And it's going great, is what he says. So they take a break, or Leslie is able to get them to take a break, and Ron comes in the back. And Ron is trying to at least impress, or I think he's really just trying to placate the city manager. Yeah, so that he stays out of his business. Ron tells her it's going poorly. It's crashing and burning. And she says, at least they aren't apathetic. And Ron's like, yeah, you're right. They're just furious about this. So he tells her, put a few positive points on, and for the love of God, avoid a vote.
Yes.
I like that Tom slips in and he goes, I am oddly attracted to Kate's feedback. I like that he just couldn't help himself but to, like, point that out.
Of course, because it's Tom.
Well, she is. She's like a cute blonde lady. Rachel has no opinion on me saying that.
I know, it's fine. She is. She's pretty. It's fine. I don't really have an opinion.
Leslie comes back to the mic after the break, and she has a plan for how to stop all of this and to get out of this meeting while avoiding a vote. And she starts to filibuster.
Yes.
So she's giving the history of Pawnee. Starts with the Wampanoag Indians who twisted the guy that came, like this explorer that came in to death.
Yes.
And she goes, fast forward to 1969. Men go to the moon. And the city manager turns around and goes, she's filibustering her own meeting. She starts reading from a book called The Phantom Toll Booth.
That's right.
Is that a real book, Rachel? I am not aware of a book called The Phantom Toll Booth. I assumed it was real. I assumed it was like some Easter egg type thing.
It is real. It is a child's book. The Phantom Toll Booth by Norton Juster. Yep.
There you go. We'll add that to the list. Might be down there, but we'll put it on there. So she starts reading this, and Kate, she's trying to, like, tell her, like, you can't do this. Like, we have, like, this is supposed to be a public forum. And Leslie goes, excuse me, I have the floor, and, like, yells back at her now because now she's mad at this lady. She says that we should be able to get to tell you all what we think. And she's like, well, you're right. Young lady, I believe you wanted to go to the microphone. So she points to April, and April goes to the mic. And she says, I'm a youth in the community, and I think that the park is a great idea. And another guy points out, like, wait a minute, you came to my house the other day. And they're like, wait, she's a plant. So then they all get mad at her, and they're like, we should really take a vote.
Right.
And Ron just looks, like, despondent at the fact that, like, this is going to be shut down, and the city manager's going to be pissed.
Right, exactly.
So then Leslie comes up with a different idea, and she says, you know what? I do want to hear from all of you. Why don't you all line up and tell me what your thoughts are? So she takes the abuse
of them
one
just
by one, which she's used to.
screaming at her, and she's like,
yeah,
that's fine. Go on, keep going.
Right. And we've seen that she's used to that from the other episode, the first episode.
Absolutely.
She just takes the abuse. And I like Anne's side where she says, like, man, it really sucked. All those people, like, just complaining and bitching about nothing. And she's like, is that what I was like?
Please tell me that wasn't how I sounded.
Was I as annoying, or hopes that she wasn't as annoying? Yeah. Leslie runs out the clock, and it doesn't make the vote. So she's actually able to get through it.
Absolutely.
And she's super upset, and, like, everyone leaves. And her mom just looks up at her with kind of, like, a smirk. But I almost felt like she, like, kind of nodded, like, almost like, for your
like,
first
at least you got
meeting.
through it.
Yeah, you got through it. I thought it was a nod, like a smirker nod of, like, support. You did okay.
Right, this was
for
okay.
Being, like, yeah.
This was horrible, but you got through it without, like, the negatives overcoming.
And she understands her daughter, too, I think, because Leslie then tells us that she loved every minute of it. Like,
because she got to do something.
Like, yeah, it was a disaster and this and that, and she loved every minute of it.
Yep.
Again, that naive enthusiasm of Leslie comes through here. The optimism, the eternal optimism.
Oh, absolutely, because right at the end, too, the guy goes, hey, park lady, like, you suck or something. And she goes, did you hear that? I'm the park lady. Yep, that's what you took from that.
So, she does have the traits of Leslie Knope. She just fails a lot.
Yes.
And in a way, even if people are calling her the Michael Scott, and we have to watch the next 4 episodes of the season to, like, see how this progresses, but taking a step back and looking at the entire series, the big picture and in hindsight, I think that this is helping the character grow.
She's learning from her mistakes.
In these first, exactly.
Yeah.
You're seeing in these first episodes that she's too enthusiastic. She's too optimistic to the point where it's overpowering her ability to get anything done. She just thinks that everyone acts like she does and feels the same passion that she does about everything. We know this because we've watched the series.
Of course.
She's going to learn and succeed or fail, but she's going to learn.
Right.
So I think it's cynical. But with Leslie being the way that she is and the way that Amy Poehler already is playing the character, I don't think that it's that far off the tone that people are claiming it is. At least I can spin it that way.
Right.
The pace is different.
Yes.
All this stuff is different. But I see Leslie Knope in this character.
Absolutely.
Ron Swanson, not as much.
Ron needs to change a little bit.
But Leslie's there.
Right.
Leslie's there. And the last beat is on Tom. I really liked this joke.
Go ahead.
Do you
no,
want to
go
say
ahead.
this
No,
one?
you do it.
Tom says, I don't always agree with Leslie, but this book is awesome. So she got him to read The Phantom Tollbooth. And that is the end of Canvassing. Rachel, your final thoughts on Canvassing?
Again, it's kind of, I see what she means by a lot of these episodes are kind of like the pilot itself. This one does feel like a continuation of the pilot, so it does feel like the same almost, where it's the same story idea where they're working on this pit. We're getting to see more of the character and understanding like them. I like our twist with how we're getting to see that she's failing, learning from her failures already with how she's approaching people and the government and what her duties are. So I find that interesting. It was still kind of a fun one. There's a lot of laughs.
I agree. It's building the world, like we said. So it's got some good stuff in it. It isn't like earth-shattering or anything like that. But, and I mean, I said it before I asked you. Yeah, I said it before I asked you, where I think it actually is a little bit of a character build. So you're getting more of the lived-in world here with Parks and Rec, which is one of the reasons why I really like it. It reminds me of Springfield. Pawnee is a lived-in city, and you're getting more and more of that here. So we'll see if that continues, because after the break, we'll get into the 3rd episode of Parks and Recreation, The Reporter.
That's right.
Shauna Mulway-Tweed might be on her way.
Oh boy.
After the break.
We know what you want. Healthy, natural food that still tastes great. And we're here to tell you, it doesn't exist. Healthy food is for suckers. It tastes like garbage, and if you say you like it, you're a chump and a liar. Be honest, this is what you want to eat. The Paunch Burger Dinner for Breakfast Burger Combo. It tastes amazing. What's in it? Who cares? How many calories? Shut up. It's awesome. Put it in your body or you're a nerd.
And we're back with another episode of Parks and Recreation. Rachel... What? Rachel made me redo that because she groaned.
You're so mean.
What is the next episode of Parks and Recreation that we are diving into now?
We are going to talk about The Reporter, episode 3.
That's
I
right.
don't know why I said it backwards, but I did it. I'm keeping it.
Yep, we're keeping it. That's right. Episode 3, The Reporter. What happens in The Reporter?
Leslie gets a reporter to come talk about the hole.
Yes, that's true. I was going to call it the pit, but the hole.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the pit. Maybe I should call it the pit, not the hole. You know, the giant hole.
So vulgar.
Guys, why does that sound vulgar? Well, anyways, she has her come talk about the pit, and it goes very, very poorly.
Yes,
to say the least.
Goes sideways.
Very sideways, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is The Reporter. It is the introduction for us of Shauna Mulway-Tweep, the local Pawnee reporter.
Yes.
Shauna Mulway-Tweep. Let's get right into it. This episode debuted on April 23rd, 2009, directed by Jeff Blitz and written by Daniel J. Gour. So, the episode begins. The cold open is Jerry shown as competent here. Rachel, were you surprised by this?
He's semi. I would assume this is like. I feel like Jerry is semi-competent anyways.
No, you're right.
This is fine.
This is fine. No, that's true. That's true. Jerry is more competent than they give him credit for. That's for sure.
Yes.
He and Leslie are on a preteen nature hike, and it used to be a teen nature hike. But they had to change it because a girl got pregnant.
Which sounds so bad.
Well, it just makes you wonder, like, what the hell?
My assumption is these teens were just walking off, you know?
Yeah, they had to have walked off. That, like, had to be what it was.
Yes. Well, it's not Jerry doing it, because then Jerry wouldn't be there anymore unless there was somebody else doing it, and then we understand why they got fired. Anyways,
that could have been an interesting backstory too. But I agree with you. I think
that might be too far.
That they walked off.
Yes.
So Jerry shows them honeysuckle, and he says that it has a very the smell is very nice or whatever, and Leslie immediately grabs it and puts it in her mouth.
Yes.
And Jerry is like, Leslie, no, like you can't put that in your mouth. Even the animals know. Yeah. And her tongue swells up because of this. She tells the audience that it had the very sweet aftertaste, though. So, Rachel, is this true? Is honeysuckle something that you should not touch in the or obviously not eat in the wild? I assume that they were telling us something that's true.
So, what I'm reading. It says that it is of low toxicity and it can cause gastrointestinal upset.
I see.
Yes. So don't eat it. It looks like it's mostly because of animal poisoning, though. I don't know why a human would eat it. I don't see anything about humans.
I guess that's why Jerry is
This immediately goes to the berries of the honeysuckle are poisonous.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. So it does say that the leaves and flowers and stuff are used for medicinal purposes, but I doubt it's just like, just chomp on
You
this
probably
leaf.
grind them up. Yeah.
Right.
That's interesting. And that explains why Jerry's like, even the animals know not to like eat this stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's our cold open. It's showing, again, a naive, incompetent Leslie Knope. After the opening credits, Anne is shown coming to City Hall, where Leslie tells her that a reporter from the Pawnee Journal is coming to do an article about the pit. The Pawnee Journal, kind of like their Washington Post.
That's right.
So it's the small town newspaper, and this is their attempt to use the press to gain some traction into the pit story. Leslie states, the press is a weapon you can use to kill or feed people. Anne is taken aback by that a bit.
I mean,
it's true.
Yeah, it's true. It's how people get their information, you know?
Yeah. That's manipulating
the scary
of the press
part of it.
Yeah, it's a real fear. And she says that you need the press for momentum. And she talks about a previous time when they tried to get a project done, because without the press's momentum and without momentum, it can cause a project to fail. And she talks about a previous project, the Tucker Park graffiti removal project, which ran out of steam. They were trying to remove penises from these murals.
The Tucker Park graffiti removal project was a great idea that just ran out of steam. We had removed 5 cartoon penises, not even 10%, when we were shut down due to lack of funding. To this day, I am haunted by those remaining penises. One penis in particular.
Leslie says that she's haunted by the remaining penises.
Well, one in particular.
That's a good joke. That's a good gag.
It is. Can you just imagine what it looks like? That's my question.
Yeah, that's the point. Everyone has.
It's got to be horrifying.
Okay, folks at home right now, picture in your mind a haunting
drawing of a
haunting
penis.
drawing of a penis. There you go. You could chat GPT that if you would.
I don't think I want to.
A haunted penis. Please send me a picture of a haunted penis. I feel like ChatGPT would come back and say like they're not allowed to do that.
Well, the chat one I don't think is, because does that one do
Whatever.
pictures?
No, but
there's ones that do pictures, right? I doubt it would, because it would be like a sexual thing. It's like, yeah, it's inappropriate.
It'd be like when we told them to make an anti-mutant ad, and
they're like, excuse me, but that's racist.
It's
like, I'm not being racist.
We're like, we're not racist. Leslie says they have to use her rules with the media. So she has a bunch of guidelines to give to the subcommittee about these rules to use on the media. The first one is stay on message.
Right. Always
Number
stay on
2,
message.
Stay on message again.
Very understandable, yes.
It's that important, yes. And Anne says that she doesn't have a lot of experience dealing with government, but she's like, well, Leslie formed a subcommittee and everything, and her only experience with the government was trying to get a recycling bin.
And she never got it.
She stopped.
She doesn't even know if she got it, which means she never got it. You know she never did.
Yeah. I do like how she phrases it, though, where she's like, wait, did I ever get it? Where
right.
She, like, realizing that she either never uses it.
Great, now I gotta go ask them for it. Yeah.
Which probably means that she never got it. So Leslie goes to JJ's diner with Mark. She asks Mark if she's
being very flirtatious.
Yes, because as we have learned, Mark is her crush because it was very intense. They had very intense lovemaking. Yeah. Is this the first time we get to see JJ's diner?
I think it's the first time we've come here. Yep.
Yeah, this is Leslie's favorite restaurant. I feel like a lot of people have this kind of thing where you have like a favorite restaurant, and it's not like anything special, but to you it's like your spot. Like it's the Seinfeld.
I think so.
This is the Seinfeld diner of
absolutely
Parks and Recreation. JJ's. Yes. And her specialty that she loves, Rachel, is what?
Waffles.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Covered in whipped cream.
Oh yeah, covered. Sugar. Just as much sugar on that plate as possible.
Yeah, she is. She's a very unhealthy eater, Leslie Knope. And she says that this is where the political elite come of Pawnee to make their deals. And the camera pans around, and it's just a bunch of old guys that clearly are not the political elite. They're just like old retired guys.
I mean, if you think about it, though.
Oh, here we go. Rachel's got a theory.
Well, I'm just saying the everyday man is supposed to be like the one that, runs everything, right? So technically the ones at JJ's diner are probably like the everyday man type of deal.
I feel like Leslie gets her idea that this is like where the political elite come, because if you're in the United States, we're doing this in an election year, and I try my best to ignore the shit because it's gotten out of hand, but they used to do these things where they would like go to bars and go to like diners like this and just walk around to people and be like, oh, who are you voting for and why? And they would like do that as like news stories.
Oh.
So I feel like, yeah, it's like because they think this is where like the everyman hangs out in these dingy diners. So it was very patronizing, but I feel like that's why Leslie thinks like, one, I think she just likes JJ's Diner.
Yes.
And two, I think that she gets the idea of like, if you want to know what's going on in the town, like you got to go to the diners. So like she's got that idea in her head.
There you go. It makes sense.
She has a list of discussion topics that she thinks that Shauna will, I should say the reporter, we haven't met Shauna yet, but you know, it's Shauna, that Shauna is going to ask. And Mark very patronizingly says, how do you spell your name? Is going to be your first question. Mark believes in none of this, as we know. So, like, he's super cynical about everything.
Yeah, he's just kind of a jerk, though. He's less of just being cynical and more of a jerk. It's fine. We'll see more of that later.
He says, this isn't your first one. What about that middle school interview? And she goes, oh, no. That was a smear job. I really wish that we could see what that article was that that was in the middle school paper and she refers to as a smear job.
Right.
And it must have
like were they like making fun of what she was wearing potentially?
Oh, interesting. Cuz like I was
kids,
wondering
you know, that's my assumption.
Yeah, I want it to be that one girl that she has later on that's like she thinks it's like her apprentice. I wanted it to be that same girl. And, like, she's just talking about how it seems like this position's useless or whatever. And, like, that's why she thinks
that
it's,
could
like,
be
a
it,
smear
too.
job.
That could be it.
They go back to the Parks and Recreation office. Mark still thinks that she's insane for having all of these questions to answer. And she's being flirtatious, as you said, Rachel.
Right. And this is where she says, like, they were very intense right before they come back to the office.
Yes. This is where we get Shauna Mulway-Tweep. Rachel? What is your description? How would you describe Shauna? Because this is like one of the first world-building characters that we have on the show. She comes back throughout the series.
Sure. I'm just trying to figure out how to describe her because she's very a person. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how do I describe this person? She's a thin, tall, dark brunette, angular face.
Personality-wise,
I don't know if we get a lot of her personality.
Yeah.
She seems
not quite yet.
Like she could be bubbly almost.
Yeah.
When you first meet her.
But she is a good reporter.
Oh, she writes down everything she hears.
Yeah.
Everything.
I put down that she's adorable. I
suppose she could be adorable. She's got those dimples.
I find Shauna Mulway-Tweep kind of adorable. Yeah. It's probably the dimples for me. I'm sure that's why.
I do like her walking in though and saying I'm here for Leslie Knope. And then we have April over here going, "Okay." Like, why are you telling me? Like
yeah. It's a very April response.
Yes.
Shauna is played by Alison Becker, who comes back repeatedly. So they're building out this world. It's lucky and it's good that you're able to get like these little actors, these character actors to be able to like fill out your world and do the world building. Like this like Shauna, Lawrence later on, some of these other like characters that like come back. It just helps make this feel more full, like a Simpsons or something like that. April is like whatever, and Leslie comes out and tells her that she thinks that she did a great job on the raccoon problem article. And it cuts to a scene of seeing Leslie walk into a city hall hallway, and there's this raccoon walking around, and she freaks out.
Really cute raccoon.
Yeah, and it's just this cute raccoon
who left the door open, and it's just her cute little fat raccoon.
I think they keep that going too throughout the series, right? About there's always raccoon problems.
I think so because
Pawnee.
I think that's when animal control gets involved at some point, don't they? And
yeah. Well, animal control. There's that episode with the possum.
It's the possum.
I think they do refer to a raccoon problem quite a bit.
Probably. I feel like they never do anything about it. It's just always
mentioned. No, they never do anything about it. It's just there.
Yeah.
She calls them nature's bandits, and Shauna says that she's proud of that.
Which is adorable.
They are nature's bandits. They go in your trash. They steal stuff. Yeah, they're trash bandits. She asks. I mean, there is that connection there, because Star-Lord is in this. And Yeah.
It's his raccoon.
Yeah,
it's his
raccoon. It is his raccoon.
He just keeps letting it in.
So do you think that Andy he's just undercover, and the raccoon problem is just because
Rocket and he's undercover as well, and he's pretending to be a real raccoon? Yeah, that makes sense.
I like that idea.
That's why
I can see that.
That's why he doesn't really understand how to work in society and is childish.
Yeah, that's why he's so
raised
childish.
by a bunch of aliens. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Leslie asks Shauna if she wants a tour, and Shauna's like, I've been here a few times before. Like, because she would, right? She's a reporter. She'd be to City Hall. And she's like, let's go on a tour anyway. I think because,
it's Leslie's, this is her 3-point plan. And she's like, I can't miss this point. I have to go on this. Yes.
It's that, and, like, she thinks that she'll, like, be calmer or something if she takes Shauna on this tour, I think, too.
Oh, maybe.
So she shows her the mural, and
these awful murals.
This mural is pretty great. Rachel, could you please describe? It's a piece of art. You describe the art here on Shelf Life. Please describe
great!
The
I
art.
get to explain this art. Lovely. So it's a Native American man, a chief. He's got the headdress and everything.
Chief
full garb.
of the Wamapo. Chief Wamapo of the Wamapo tribe.
The trial of Chief Wamapo.
There you go. Thank you.
Which wasn't really a trial. The man was strapped to a tree and shot with a cannon. And that's what is depicted in the picture. And Leslie just loves how stoic he is. You know, he's not screaming or anything. He's so just stoic. Staring, you know, like so strong. So awful. It's such an awful picture. But yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's quiet dignity. I'm so sorry. Quiet dignity.
His quiet dignity before he was shot with a cannon.
Good lord.
While tied to a tree. And Shauna's like,
I love this. I love
complain.
This.
The Trial of Chief Wamapo. It was painted in 1936, and this is Chief Wamapo, and he was convicted of crimes against the soldiers. I am always amazed at his quiet dignity right before he's killed by a cannonball.
I'm surprised no one's complained about this.
Oh, tons of people have. Yeah, we get letters every day.
Every single day. And they do nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that's both commentary on the government, I think, and just in general how nothing really ever gets done.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter what
complain
you do.
All you want. Nothing's going to change.
They go back into the Parks and Rec office, and Ron is there, and Leslie says, Ron, this is Shauna from the Pawnee Journal, and Ron's immediate response is to go, no comment.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, Ron does not want to have anything to do with the press.
Absolutely. He doesn't want to have anything to do with anything, so especially not the press.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he doesn't want to have anything to do with anything. So, the bee story in this episode, want me to give my opinion on this?
Go for it.
It's kind of weak. It's
a little weak.
It's like, why is this even there? Ron, he plays online Scrabble with Tom, and Tom always lets him win because it's his boss.
Right.
So Ron thinks that Tom is terrible at Scrabble, but in reality, he's just letting him win. That's the whole story, really.
That's it. That's really all it is. It's kind of weird that that's all it is, but you're right. That is all it is.
It's very strange that, like, that's it. Shauna meets the group, and Leslie introduces all of them to Shauna, introduces Shauna to all of them, says that April, she's our intern, she could be anywhere, but she chooses to be here, and April does not look plussed about this.
It's true, though. This is where she chooses to be.
She chooses to be here. Calls Tom a brown... What does she call him?
Something about smooth chocolate, I think.
Oh yeah, like smooth like chocolate or something.
Yeah, he's boy genius.
Yeah,
smooth like chocolate. Weird way to describe him.
They go into the conference room, and Shauna starts to record, and this immediately makes Leslie nervous. This is a pretty good job by Amy Poehler to, like, you can just see her getting nervous. Like, it's very good. Yeah.
She just has them wide like a deer in the headlights.
Why do you think that she just gets nervous being on the record? Because, like, why would she get so nervous?
I feel like she gets nervous in a lot of instances where it's like, okay, this is like permanent, this is recorded, this is anything public, stuff like that. She seems to get very nervous.
Yeah. It just because, like, okay, now, like,
everything I say
it's real
verbatim, and it's real. Yeah, that might be what it is.
Shauna asked the first question and asked, like, when did you put together the subcommittee or something about the committee? And Leslie immediately turns the recorder off and says, actually, it's a subcommittee. It's not a committee.
I guess it's like that, too, where she wants the information to be right, and she's afraid of it getting misconstrued.
Yes, she's afraid of it being misinterpreted. Even something as small as saying committee versus subcommittee.
Right? Because if they put that out there, it's like, wait a minute, it's not actually a committee, it's a subcommittee. You know, it's like, well, you could have had that on the record that you're like, it's actually
because
a subcommittee.
she's so much of a stickler.
Absolutely, she is 100% a type A, and it has to be the way she needs it to be.
She tries to again ask, "Is this where they usually meet?" And she's just too nervous again and turns it off again. And Shauna, which in future episodes or future seasons even, I think that Shauna's character would be more like, oh, Leslie, like, are you okay? Like, she'd be more bubbly about it, like you're saying, Rachel.
Yes.
Because they lean more into her bubblier side in the future. In this, because she's more straight-laced reporter, she goes, really? And, like, is annoyed by the fact that Leslie, like, cannot leave the recorder on.
Yeah, this one she seems to have a bit more of an attitude versus being like a bit of like a bubbly reporter. She's more of like she's like a straight-laced reporter.
Yeah, she's a reporter.
Right.
Shauna says, why don't I get some interviews or some quotes from the rest of the team first?
Right.
And obviously realizing that Leslie's like nervous about this. So Leslie leaves. Leslie is super sweaty while Shauna interviews the rest of them. I watched the deleted scenes for these episodes, Rachel.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember if this was in the episode or if this was just the deleted scenes, but I think there was a deleted scene where she goes, there's more rules, and one of the rules is never let them see you sweat. So that's
why she gets up.
This is the second half of the joke here, because she's like airing her armpits out in her office.
That makes sense.
Shauna interviews Andy, and Leslie comes back into the room while the interview is going on, and Andy gives his story. His band 3 Skin, formerly 4 Skin. I like the running joke that Andy's band's names change for a while until it finally lands on Mouse Rat.
Right. It is fun, because that just means that they're really bad at everything.
Yeah, they can't even name their band. Rachel, he reveals why he went into the pit, or why he fell into the pit. Why did he fall into the pit?
He was drunk and saw a toaster, and he wanted it.
I love that Shauna's follow-up is, why did you go into the pit if you thought you saw a toaster? And his response is, I don't know, I was pretty wasted.
Yeah, I was pretty wasted. And then everybody's like, oh, God, wait, what do you mean? And then she is just frantically writing at this point as he's talking.
Why would you want a toaster that's lying at the bottom of a pit?
I don't know. I was pretty wasted.
Wait, you were drunk?
Oh, yeah, totally. You knew that.
I didn't know that. No, you should have told me because we gave you anesthesia at the hospital.
Well, I was probably not thinking because I had 2 broken femurs. Dangerous. And I was like blackout drunk. So
I can't believe I'm just finding this out right now.
Oh, like you're perfect. You're on the pill. You drink all the time.
You're allowed to do that.
Stand message.
Thank you so much for bringing that up in front of a reporter.
My favorite bit about this is Leslie goes to stop the recorder again, and Shauna knows she's going to do it.
Yes,
so she grabs it and pulls it away. It's so seamlessly done. It's really nice Shauna immediately understands Leslie's character. It's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Anne did not know that Andy was drunk at the time that he fell into the pit, which I think it doesn't change the fact that this pit is a hazard, but I think it would have.
But now this guy's an idiot. This is your thing that you're putting this all on, is that this guy fell in the pit and it was a travesty. Well, the man was a drunk idiot trying to get a toaster. In a pit.
And with Darren's help, we'll get that toaster. And The silly part too is that now like Anne has put herself out there. She's like going to these meetings. She's like trying to be supportive, and it's like my drunken boyfriend fell into the pit and broke his legs. Andy says something about her being on the pill.
He says something about her, like, oh, like, you're one to talk, you're on the pill and you drink, and she's like, you can. Like, what do you mean? Like, it has nothing to do with anything.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that he didn't understand that being on birth control means that you can drink.
Right.
That's funny. Okay.
Yeah, so he's just an idiot.
Leslie is devastated and is like, how could this happen? And they're all in Leslie's office now, and she's like, you just dumped Chum in the water because this is going to look like super bad that he was drunk and everything. And she asked Mark to come help salvage this. She sent him 15 texts about it, in fact. So she tells Mark the situation. And my favorite part about this is she goes, and it turns out that Anne is on birth control pills.
Like, wow.
like she just acts like it's like also going to be a problem.
Andy was drunk when he fell in the pit, and it turns out that Anne is on birth control pills.
And she asks Mark to fix it. And Mark gets one look at Shauna Mulway-Tweep and realizes that, he'll fix it all right.
Yeah, he's such a scummy kind of guy. He really
he's a slut.
That's so gross. He's worse than a slut. He's such a man slut. You're right. But he's so gross. Because he's so gross about it. Like, he's just like, no, I'm just a man slut. Like,
yeah, he's very open about it. I have no problem with that. I'd be a man slut if I could. We should embrace sluttiness, Rachel.
That's fine.
Sluts are good
That's
people.
That's fine. No, I'm not saying
I am
it's a bad thing
to
be a slut, but this guy doesn't really open up about him being himself a man slut to his partners until after the deed, which is a problem.
Yes.
That's the problem.
He is manipulative. Rachel's doing she's doing a lot of TikTok hand gestures right now. That's a problem.
Be a slut. Just tell them you're a slut up front, all right?
That's a shirt. That's a something.
I'm a slut up front.
Be a slut up front. Tom asks April if he is in the top 5 best-looking Indian guys in Pawnee, and April, not missing a beat, goes, no. And Tom's like, wait, who's better? That guy Rajiv, or whatever he says. And Ron comes in to berate Tom again about being bad at Scrabble, and we get a historical moment here for Parks and Recreation because Ron mentions his ex-wife, Tammy.
Yes.
He says that he's as bad as his ex-wife. Who is a bitch, he says to the camera.
Oh my god, the way he says it, though, doesn't feel as Ron-ish, but it still felt Ron-ish. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
There was something about it that was so
I was like,
sharp that I was like, is it Ron-ish that he says it? Just like, she's a bitch.
Her name is Tammy Swanson, and she's a serious bitch.
Well, it's very
flat. It says them like 3 times.
It's very flat because of the fact that this is the first season, and it's got more of that office, cynical tone to it.
True, yes.
It sounded Ron enough to me.
Yeah, it did sound Ron enough, but at the same point, I was like, whew, that just felt like so... I don't know, I just felt like he would have used something different, or a different turn of phrase, maybe.
Yeah. Shauna says that she has to leave, but she'll do the interview at the pit. Leslie's like, okay, great. And Shauna, like, thanks her and leaves. I wrote down in my notes, Rachel, she's super cute. So again, I think that the dimples are doing it for me with Shauna.
Of course. Oh my God.
And then Mark leaves with a hand on the back of Shauna, so we know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's the international sign of getting it on. Woo-wee!
Yeah, that's a big old woo-wee.
So the next morning, Leslie is at the pit with a photographer. She's telling the photographer where to take the shot at. And Mark drops Shauna off at the pit.
Yes. So Shauna is getting dropped off by Mark in the same outfit from yesterday. Late to the interview.
And very disheveled.
Very disheveled. She didn't get to sleep a wink last night, you know? Like,
well, I think it's a little comical of how long it takes Leslie to put this together.
Yes.
Because she's like, Shauna is being
denial. She's totally in denial at first.
She says Shauna's being very unprofessional. She's 15 minutes late. She's wearing the same dress as yesterday. She had to get a ride from Mark. And then she just stops and thinks about it. gives a it's a Leslie Knope-ish enough.
Yes.
Disappointment. I thought it reminded me a lot of Michael Scott. And I know that I keep bringing it up, but that's because people have said that she acts too much like Michael Scott. So I'm trying to find those areas where...
this one I could see it, yes.
I'm trying to find those areas where people think
especially the way she reacts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I actually don't think it's as prevalent as people say, but I'm going to point it out where to give people their due on that one. And I thought that this was close. Leslie shuts down and won't answer any questions. Shauna asks her how big the lot is and stuff, and she's like, 100?
I don't know.
She's like...
What do you think?
She gets
you tell
so
me.
upset. Yeah.
And it's like...
I get it. I've been there.
I get it, but at the same time,
it's
Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Mark. It's not... It's just Mark.
I don't like Mark.
So she starts having a freak out. She goes into her car to think. In the meantime, April is playing Scrabble for Tom and is beating Ron.
Yes.
And Tom thinks this will ruin him. Spoiler alert for the end of this episode. Tom just tells Ron that it was April, and Ron's like, yeah, I knew it couldn't have been you.
Yes.
And it doesn't even go anywhere.
It
doesn't.
They could have
had that
it doesn't.
Somewhere.
There could have been... I wanted there to be more if, like... Ron starts treating
Ron
him
gets
different.
Upset. Yeah.
But he doesn't. There's just that next scene.
Yeah, or like after when he finds out that April is really good at Scrabble, then he starts treating April better.
Instead.
So then Tom like realizes that like, oh shit, like I
should have been like
I should have been playing better because like he respects April. Like
yes,
that would have been interesting, but they don't do anything with this.
No, they don't really.
Leslie comes back with a shovel. I thought that was funny because she said that she had to go to her car to get something, and so she comes back with like a.
It's like the scraper, isn't it?
Yeah, like a
Like
that's what
scraper.
it is. Yeah, like an ice scraper for her car because she knows she had to come back with something because she said she would.
Oh my gosh. I probably would have you don't even have to say anything. You just come back. Like,
just come back.
You
just pretend like it was like a pen.
Like you're putting some in your pocket. Like,
yeah.
Who cares?
First of all, I've done that before. Like, you do the move where like you need to buy time, or you're like, you don't want to be in the meeting room or whatever, so you're like, I gotta go get something from my desk. You just pretend to put something in your pocket and you come back in or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Who cares? They're not going to notice. Nobody's paying attention.
Yeah.
Nobody's actually looking
cares.
at you.
Nobody cares. You don't even have to say anything. Just say, excuse me 1 second and leave.
Right.
Nobody fucking cares.
If they do, they're weird.
Yeah, that makes them weird. Fucking weirdo. Quit being weird. Why are you paying attention to what I'm doing? Where were we? Leslie gets asked how long she's been at the Parks and Recreation office, and Leslie's like, well, my mother got me the job, but it's not like it's nepotism. And she's like, so actually it is nepotism. Shauna yawns and is like, I'm sorry, I didn't get any sleep last night. So that just pisses
her off more. When honestly, all she has to do then is just take advantage of the fact that she's like tired and not really paying attention, and she could have probably turned it around. But she didn't.
She doesn't put that together that quickly.
No.
Leslie then goes to Anne's house, knocks repeatedly on Anne's door in a very obnoxious fashion, and Anne finally answers. And she says that the interview was going perfect.
The ding-donging, honestly, my dog was going a little nuts because he was, watching the screen and doing the ear tilt every time. She was just ding, 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 ding. He's like, why? What is happening?
At least he was just doing that.
He wasn't barking.
I've learned that Mom and Dad's dog has picked up on what the ding-dong means. So she runs to the door and barks.
He usually knows. It's just the TV, and he'll look he'll look directly at the TV to see what happens, and then goes, "Okay, it's just the TV." It's like he knows.
Yeah. And this was so obnoxious that I feel like it was like, okay, this can't be real because it's
right.
They're doing
I think
it too
that's
many
what
times.
I was like. Who's like head tilted? Like, what is happening?
Anne finally comes out, and Leslie says that the interview was going perfect. In fact, it was going so perfect that she was like, "Why push it? I'm just gonna stop interview." Leslie sits with Anne and Andy and says that, they were asking this stuff and this stuff. She was like, there was a little bit of an annoying thing, though. Mark and Shauna had sex. And Andy goes, called it from the other room.
Yes. And she goes, he did actually call it. We did actually have a conversation about it. Which I also could see happening.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely could. I actually like that idea of Andy being like, I think Andy's gonna have sex with that reporter.
Oh, he's gonna totally do her. Like he probably was like, oh, he's totally gonna bone that reporter chick.
Yeah,
like
yeah. They said, why can't they be professionals? And Andy from the other room goes, men are dogs.
That one in the background, they don't even zoom in on him. You just hear it. That was good. Hear it. Yeah.
This is the first time I felt like Andy acts like Andy.
Yes.
This is the first episode where I was like, okay, he's starting to act like Andy Dwyer.
I'm half wondering if the men are dogs was improvised and he
because
just
of
yelled
how
it.
Line it was.
Of how it felt like Andy.
Well, we know that Chris Pratt does a lot of improv on the show, so that's possible. And then he even says he was sticking with the head of his wiener instead of the head of his. And Anne's like, Andy, stop it. And he goes, men do that. It's disgusting. Leslie thinks that she should go talk to Mark to make sure that he didn't hurt the project, which you know her real motivations of this, but she's not wrong. Like, she's actually right because he did hurt the project by sleeping with Shauna.
100% he actually did.
So, yes, she's doing it because of her crush on Mark, but she actually ends up being right about everything because he fucked it all up.
Yep.
Andy then goes, bet he didn't use a condom. She walks into Mark's office and says that she needs to talk to him and says that she thinks it was unethical and irresponsible for him to sleep with her. She's not even wrong about that, to be honest.
Correct.
He's in the government. He's on a committee where there's an article about that's about to go out about your project. He sleeps with the reporter. It is probably unethical to be doing that. It's unethical for Shauna to be doing that too, to be honest with you.
Yes, both of them are in the wrong here.
She then calls Shauna skanky, which I think is more of her being jealous of Shauna.
Definitely.
Do you find Shauna to be skanky, Rachel? Do you think that this was a skanky move?
No, I think he's skanky.
Okay, so
took advantage.
Okay. So now that you've said that, I can tell you another
deleted
scene. There's a deleted scene where Anne is giving a soliloquy, and she says something about Shauna being skanky.
Okay.
So she even says it, which I feel like it's out of character for both. I think it might be purposely out of character for Leslie because she's jealous now. So she's
she's just having that jealous, like she's going nuts because she's just like, screw this woman. She's ugly. She's skanky. She's all of this.
Yes.
Even though she doesn't really believe it.
Anne says that Sean is skanky, and then she goes, actually, Mark is skanky. So she says your opinion.
Thank you for correcting yourself.
Mark says, I don't want you to take offense to this, but you're being a huge dork. And Leslie is pissed off that he said that and says, well, I don't want anybody with that attitude on my subcommittee. And he goes, well, I resigned from your subcommittee. She's upset now because instead of taking the subcommittee seriously, he's like, well, fine, fuck it then. I don't care.
Right.
Leslie calls Shauna and tells her that she had food poisoning from an old burrito.
Yes.
and that's why she was
a weird thing to say.
Yeah, just say like, I wasn't feeling very good. Can I get another shot at the interview or whatever?
Right.
So she says, can I meet you for lunch? And Shauna says, sure. Probably not Mexican though. And because Leslie cannot even remember the lies that she has told, she's like, why not Mexican? And she's like, because of the burrito. And she's like,
oh, it wasn't a Mexican burrito.
Yeah. So she takes her back to JJ's diner because of course she does. She gets the waffles again.
Of course, because it's the best thing on the menu.
God, like seeing these waffles though, they do look really good.
They look very good.
They look really good.
They're like thick and fluffy. Yeah, they look fantastic. Like I could hear the crunch because of like the coating on the outside.
Makes me want to get some waffles.
Put some like butter and some syrup on that.
If there's a
got like that big old dollop of whipped cream.
Yeah,
it's great.
It looks
great.
Go on. If I was gonna say if there's a theme to this volume, it's waffles because of Donkey, and now because of Leslie Knope.
Waffles.
Mm-hmm. Waffles is a theme.
Do they ever put waffles on their pizza? They have breakfast pizzas. I'm wondering if there were waffles on them. I might have to look this up.
Are you talking about
we
the
might have
turtles?
waffles. Yes. Yes, I am.
There might be waffles in future in the rest of the volume too. Animal House, they do that big food fight scene. There could be waffles in that.
That's true. They could.
I don't know if Stone Cold Steve Austin was eating any waffles before his match at WrestleMania 13.
Sounds like a guy who would eat waffles, though. You know, with a beer. Makes sense. They might have had waffles.
This volume, waffles.
Oh, I gotta go back and pay attention now.
I wish we were good enough at that kind of crap where it's like the psych pineapple and everything, where everything in the volume there's a waffle.
You know, here's the thing.
At some point, like, that would be hilarious if we did that.
We may have accidentally done that. What if we accidentally did it? Because that's even better, in my opinion.
Waffles, or there's a waffle at some point in each subject. That would be hilarious if, like, we did something like that.
I kind of wish we would have just mentioned waffles now in every recording.
But I don't remember half the shit I say on these.
I don't either. And then somebody will quote me, and I'm like, huh?
She says that she was a little off message, and Sean is like, yeah, you were acting kind of weird. and Leslie's like, I don't know if I would say weird. So she asks Leslie point blank, what are the odds that this is going to get made? And Leslie says, over 100%. And Sean is like, oh, really? And she's like, can I read you some quotes? Because you sound a lot more optimistic than some of the other people that I've been talking to. The quotes are, it will always be a pit. She starts getting nervous about this and starts nervous eating the waffles.
Yes.
She says unicorns are more likely to exist. The Pope getting married is more likely. This one is just no.
I want to know how many of these did she go through before they picked the ones they liked?
Oh yeah, definitely.
This scene must have gone on and on and on.
Yeah. Allison Becker and Amy Poehler, I know you're listening. What were some of the outtakes? Because they weren't in the deleted scenes. There weren't any like alternatives. I just want to know how many they went through. I feel like the just no had to be Ron, right?
Yes.
Although I could see him saying no
but
comment.
Ron would have said no comment.
You're right. Yeah, Ron would have said no comment.
Donna. No.
Donna could be a no.
It would have just been like a no.
Or April.
Or April.
This park is never, ever going to happen. And she goes, who said that one? She says it was Mark Brandanowitz. And she's devastated by this because...
that's just...
It's not only is it
salt
like...
into a wound right there.
Leslie doesn't feel like Ron is her mentor yet. She thinks that Mark is.
Yes.
So, like, it's double duty devastating because... That was alliteration.
Double duty.
Double duty devastating.
I want that on a shirt. Double duty devastating.
Yeah, that could be a shirt. Why not?
I like that one.
Folks at home, let us know if you want a double duty devastation shirt. That sounds like some terrible
with
tag team
with a plate of waffles.
Yeah, that's something AI would come up with if you took it down the rabbit hole way too long.
Is.
Anne goes to Mark saying that they have to fix this reporter thing. And Mark's like, why is this a big deal? Why does it matter? And Anne's like, because you fucked this up. Because she's going to go to press saying what you quoted and you are on the committee to get the park built.
Right.
And he's like, I said it off the record, though.
Did you actually say off the record?
And he's like, do you have to? Yeah, like he doesn't realize that you have to say that.
I mean, she's a reporter. Now she was able to get a deep dive.
Yes,
by
so
diving into those sheets.
You're right. You're right, Rachel. We questioned if it was unethical or skanky, but in reality, she was doing her job. She was going undercover. Literally. She was going under those covers, literally.
God damn it.
To get a quote out of Mark Brandanowitz, man skank.
All she had to do was smile at him, and she probably could have gotten him to talk.
She could have gotten me. Yeah, I would have.
Yeah, we all know that. You're half a man skank, right?
I'm an unsuccessful man skank.
Aww.
Ladies, thank you. Yes. I'm a wannabe.
You're a non-practicing man skank.
That's a t-shirt.
It is. It really is.
So they catch Shauna later, and Shauna is really flirtatious. She's like, hey, Mark. And she says that her editor loves all the stuff that Mark told her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, but do you have to put it in there? And she's like, well, you did say it. And he's like, well, technically I said it so that you would come back to bed. Yeah, like he's like, I said it so that you would come back to bed. And she's like, so I did. I came back to bed. And he's like, well, that was the important part. I would have said anything. Yeah, and I love Anne is so disgusted about all of this too.
Well, because it is gross. It's a little gross.
It's gross.
And she's having to be like she's like a third party of this weird conversation.
Yeah, of this conversation. Yeah. I feel like she has to, though, because if she's not there, Mark won't go through with it.
Oh, absolutely.
So she has to, like, be there to make sure that Mark actually does it.
Well, even with her there, though, Mark screws it up.
Mark screws it up, yes.
Because she says, all right, because we're romantically involved, I won't print it. And then he decides to say, I wouldn't say romantically involved. Like, come on. At least
Mark
be a little smart about this.
Be tactful.
Wait until the article comes out, then you can say that.
Like, Mark, you can sleep with her again and then break it, or don't even do that.
Too.
Go out to dinner with her once and be like, I don't know. Like,
if you're gonna be a man skank, do it right. You don't have to say it right away.
Yeah, definitely does not do it right. I love Anne's oh my god when he says it too. We get the conclusion of this Ron-Tom storyline because it goes to Ron telling us that he knows Tom lets him win, but he likes Tom. He doesn't do any work. He shows no initiative. He isn't a team player. He never goes that extra mile.
Yes.
It's exactly what he's looking for in a government employee. Mark comes into Leslie's office. I like this little touch. Leslie has her keyboard on a bunch of books so that she could, like, type faster. It's a nice little touch. It's this little detail that I feel like they just kind of threw in there, that she's just like this like little half-assed, like I'm like putting my keyboard up so that I can type on it better or faster.
Right. She's also just that busy and her desk is completely swamped full
covered
of stuff.
with crap.
Yeah.
Mark apologizes to her and says that he shouldn't have done anything with that reporter. And I love the revelation of Tom being there. It's Milhouse-esque from the summer of 4'2".
It really is. Yeah.
Because you forget, you know that Tom shares an office with Leslie, but you forget about it. So that when Tom just goes, whoa, you nailed Melway Tweep? And Mark just goes, yeah, that he's there. So I thought that was a good revelation, a good joke.
Oh, it's a good one. I like that one.
Mark says that things got dicey when he tried to make things right, but he got her to pull the quotes, or tried to get her to pull the quotes. And he asks if he can be reinstated into the subcommittee, and she says, I'll let you know by the end of the month. And then she says, do you think that the park will get made? He pauses, and then he says, absolutely. And he insists that the park is going to get done. So even then, he can't, like, muster up enough enthusiasm to be like, yes, I believe that this will get done, or I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure it'll get done.
Or, like, help, yeah. Like, I'm actually going to be a part of this.
It seems so odd. I guess it's supposed to be framing how bad government is, because this is such a simple thing where all that needs to happen is a park needs to get built.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this empty pit that is a clear hazard and clearly dangerous.
Right.
And no one in this town thinks that it'll get done. Everyone thinks that it's just going to be a pit.
Oh, yeah.
After he leaves, Tom goes, man, that dude has stuck it in some crazy chicks. Not knowing that includes Leslie.
Well, honestly,
he
might know. No, I think he still does
so?
know, and he just said it anyways.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I could see Leslie giving up the goods. I can't remember if we ever find out that, like, there's a scene where Tom finds out.
Oh, yeah, maybe. You might be right. But I do just feel like this Tom would just say it to her face.
Yes.
That you're a crazy chick and he stuck it in you, so.
Yep. Could also be a t-shirt. Crazy chick and I stuck it in you.
No.
That's if you're a man skink like Mark Brandanowitz. Rachel, have you ever heard, I don't know if this has ever been proven true or not, but they used to say back in the day Derek Jeter would have a gift bag for the girls that he would sleep with. I think it was Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter or was Alex Rodriguez? It might have been Alex Rodriguez. It was a Yankee. Okay. And they would say that he would have a gift basket for the girl after he had sex with them, which would include like a ride home, like a taxi ride home.
Wow.
I don't know if this is true.
Wow.
I'm just telling you I've, like, read these things.
Ooh.
So, like, I could see Mark Brandanowitz giving them a t-shirt that says, I'm a crazy chick, and he stuck it in me, or something.
Oh, my God. He stuck it in me, and all I got was this crazy shirt. This crappy shirt.
Is part of the joke that Mark is such a ladies' man, but he's so unassuming? Like, all he is this
I
city
think so,
planner?
because okay, so if we're doing let's compare this to The Office.
Okay.
He's Jim, but he's the crappy Jim.
He's Jim.
He's a shitty Jim where you think he's cute, you think he's a nice guy, but in actuality, he's an asshat. And so
Rachel has officially turned on Mark Brandanowitz, and we're only 3 episodes into this series. She's like, where the fuck is Adam Scott?
But he's
Lowe?
an asshat. Tell me he's not already.
No, he is. He doesn't fit with the tone that eventually Parks and Rec becomes.
Correct. But I think that's the point. I think he's just supposed to make fun of the Jim Halpert office.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I do think that it is supposed to be funny that, like, Mark is such a ladies' man and, like, a party guy, but he doesn't come off as a party guy at all.
No. Yeah, no.
Leslie says that the article was a mixed bag, and then it gets a little unpleasant. And then, okay, so she goes through the little beats, which include that Anne is on the pill.
Yes!
JJ's Diner gets a nice mention. And then at the end, she says, we'll see. It ends on a hopeful note. And that's the end of the episode.
Or a hopeful nope. Sorry.
Thank you, Rachel.
I
Thank
had
you.
to. We ended on a hopeful nope. What do you want from me?
And on a hopeful nope.
Yeah.
Also could be a t-shirt. You're right.
Thank you.
We're cranking them out this
Cranking them out.
So that is the end of The Reporter. Rachel, what are your thoughts about this one?
It's kind of fun that, like you said, the bee is a little boring and, like, why even bother? Yep. Probably just to have something for the other ones to do in the background. But it is kind of just fun to see Leslie, fail a little bit, I guess. And he's such a man slut. You gotta have that going on through this whole thing too.
Got to love the
you gotta learn to dislike her crush, I think, is the objective here.
Oh, you think so?
I
See,
think
that's
so.
interesting. We love Leslie Knope.
Yes.
Because of 7 seasons of Leslie Knope. No, I guess you're right. Because even Anne is like, what's wrong with you, to Mark. So yeah, I guess you're right. It is supposed to be a little antagonistic to Mark Brandanowitz.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you're right about that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I do like that we had a little bit of Andy be Andy. So that was nice. Yeah.
I said that this one is not bad. I think it's funny. I think that there's funny beats to it. I like how it builds the world of Pawnee, Indiana. It adds to the Mark Leslie thing. It's not super strong or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it has some good beats. It has some good moments. It's not super cringy or anything like that. To me, anyway. So yeah, I thought that it was all right. I thought it was all right. Okay, so we are halfway through the. Oh, look at the time. Oh, Rachel, we are late.
No.
We gotta get to the subcommittee meeting.
We gotta get to the meeting.
We have to.
We can't be
it's
late
on the
again.
other side. It's on the other side of the studio. So we gotta go.
Jesus.
Okay, we will conclude. We will do the second half of Parks and Recreation next time. But we will be back. We gotta go. We gotta go.
All right, I'm going. I got it.
All right. We'll see you next time on Shelf Life.
Normally I don't agree with Leslie about anything, but this book is awesome.